Bago natin simulan, oh my gulay, nakakapangilabot yung...
Sobra! It's been days since nakita ko yung trailer na yan and it still hits me here. Oh my God.
Yeah, right. Goosebumps. Just in time. Hello! Hello everyone!
Po sa mga nandito. And for the first time, we are also on time. Exactly at 7 p.m. Nag-start kami. Walang delay or anything. Welcome to the live show of Trihoes! This is the 10th live show of Trihoes. And as you can see, hindi lang naman kaming tatlo dito dahil down below, pare, comment section.
Down below.
Makikita yun naman talaga ang mga fierce-looking lady right there, over there. Ayan. So, really, let's them, okay? So, your socials and everything, ano mang gusto nyo promote, bago tayo magsimula. So, let's start with, let's go, Shalea. Shut up, Shalea. Let's go.
Ay, intro ba to? Sorry. So, hi, I'm Shalea. I run Caffeine Book Tours, which organized the tour for The Dragon of JIN-SAYENG and also the tours for the previous book. So, medyo sobrang invested ko talaga in the series. But aside from that, I also have my own blog of that Shut Up Shalea. So, ayun.
Ayan. So, ilalagay ko yung mga link below after the live show. Okay, now let's go. Yo, Tita Kate.
Ayun. Hi, everyone. So, I'm Kate. I run the blog, Your Tita Kate. I guess lahat ng socials ko na sa comment section box, whatever. I have been super obsessed with this trilogy since it first came out in 2020, I think, early 2020. Sobrang invested ako din in this entire journey and all. And then, Shalea, you didn't say, pero like, it was really such a huge deal for the two of us na in the Ikesar Falcon, we're in the acknowledgements of that book.
Oh, so, right.
Thank you, Kay. Wait lang, my tears.
Thank you,
So yon, I am so thankful to you guys for inviting us here because I can talk about my feelings about the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG. So thanks guys for giving me and Shalea this avenue to cry.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just here to watch everyone else.
3 hours yung allocated time namin dito.
Okay, thank you sa inyo dalawa mga Momshi Girl, and thank you because we are ready to listen sa mga talk niyo together with our viewers right there. Ayan. So ayun na nga, and also hello, ako po si Gerald from Gerald the Bookworm, and then we have
I'm Trish, Tissue Paper.
And I'm Kat of her bookish side. If di nyo pa nababasa sa username ko, ayan po. So yun, again, welcome! Alam, dami na nating viewers. Thank you!
Thank you
Sana
so
nabasa
much.
nyo yung The Dragon of JIN-SAYENG para hindi kayo ma-spoil.
Super spoilery po ito.
We're really not gonna avoid. Okay lang to like.
Wala, hindi talaga.
Okay.
Siguro sa first part siguro, mga first 20 minutes. And then later we can go on with it.
Yes.
Ayun.
Okay, kung nabasa nyo na, mag-comment kayo ng sword emoji.
Ayan,
Sword
oo nga,
fight
tama.
emoji.
So,
Ayan. And then kung hindi nyo pa
sword emoji.
nababasa, may
Wait,
dragon emoji ba?
parang
Meron! May
meron.
dragon emoji,
I think
sis.
there is yung color green na emoji.
Mm.
Pero kung hindi niyo pa
Fashion
nabasa yung The
Blizzard.
Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, at least nabasa niyo man lang yung Wolf of Oranyari or Ika-Sir Falcon kasi obviously, your
Hindi mo
background,
magigets.
hindi nyo kami magigets at all. But thank you for hanging out in case wala naman kayong bawal lakbasan. Imalay nyo, mabasa nyo rin later on. So for today, our facilitator, our host, is gonna be sa may side ni Trish. Ano wala? Trish! Yay! So, siya po yung mag-question and answer. Question niya, sagot niya. Joke!
Opo.
Okay, so bilang si Trish nga ang mag-facilitate, tungkol saan nga ba itong The Dragon of JIN-SAYENG?
Akala ko iiwan lang tayo ng cute Riesling sa baba. Tama. Shit, sige. So, The
Wala
Dragon
nagawa.
of JIN-SAYENG is the third and final book sa Chronicles of the Witch Queen. So, right after ng Ikisar Falcon, we follow Tali as she stresses over the warlords, stresses over Rayel, stresses over her love life, stresses over the dragons and the monsters, stresses over her son, stresses over sa rebels, stress si Tali. So, and basta, yan lang sasabihin ko because hindi ko alam paano ma-summarize yung libro. Ang dami na nangyayari sa libro. I wouldn't do it justice by summarizing it. So, iiwan na lang talaga kami ng Goodreads link mamaya. I'm sorry. Basta, stress si Tali at mahal namin siya. So, yan yung synopsis. I guess, mag-start na tayo sa, as usual, yung general thoughts on the book. So, for this part, ang questions, I would like to ask kung what were your thoughts on this book as a conclusion for the trilogy? And parang follow-up na lang, what do you think of the trilogy as a whole? Kasi complete na siya eh. So, after that, parang rating na lang. Nag-gets niyo ba yun? Mabilis ba ako?
Gets po, ma'am.
So,
sino magsisimula ngayon bilang nag-gets natin?
Kung sino naka-gets, magsimula.
dapat talaga tayo kanina bago mag-start mini, minimum. May order. Para hindi tayo nagtuturoan ngayon eh. Okay, sino volunteer?
Ako na lang.
Go, ma'am.
Ako na.
Ay,
Okay.
finale na lang yung dalawa. Tapos tayo una
Para maganda.
Okay,
Para
go.
closing, maganda. Okay.
Yes.
So what I can say is ano pa bang ina-expect ko? Since last year, ina-expect ko na mahalin ko ng sobra itong The Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, and I am not wrong, mga mamshi girl. I super love The Dragon of JIN-SAYENG. I love everything kasi simula pa lang, talagang kinuha niya na agad ang puso at pagmamahal ko. Since nag-struggle ako nung una, di ba, sa The Wolf of Oranyari, pero dito sa Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, sobrang smooth flowing na lang ang lahat because I miss them all so much. This is the perfect conclusion and I cannot ask for a better conclusion because chef's kiss. I love it so much. 5 stars. Kahit nire-read ko pa to, 6 stars pag nire-read. Ganon. Bawat re-read, may isang star na dadagdag. Ganon. Thank you so much. I love it.
Ang bongga. Kat, ikaw sunod.
Ano bang thoughts ko? Sorry, sobrang sabog ko talaga today.
Oh.
So, if I space out for the whole day, yes, if I space out, it's because of lack of sleep and tiredness and all that stuff. So anyway, with Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, alam niyo yung feeling na parang the feeling when you know that the author is very intellectual because she tied up everything. Like from the first book to the last one. Like Miss K. Villoso, you're a genius, you're an intellectual. I just love how everything was tied up. There was, at the first two books kasi, I feel like there's still a lot of questions and there's a lot of like plot holes na gusto mong masagot. And you were kind of scared because it might not happen in the third book, and sometimes it happens to some series, but with this one I think everything was just, alam niyo yung parang sobrang ganda ng finish niya. It was like a thing o kaya bahay na sobrang ang ganda ng finish, like wala ka nang hahanapin, parang ganon. Like everything was really tied up for me, unless there's like some loopholes na hindi ko naisip, baka kasi naisip ninyo, so pwede nyo rin i-share later. There might be because hindi ko rin alam. Pero for me, it was really tied up very, very well. And the whole trilogy, I've said this last year dun sa live show ng Trihoes na sobrang amazed ako how everything was, like the world building, the setting, and kung gaano siya ka-Filipino. Yun yung isa sa pinaka, I really loved it. And although yung Ikasar, I had like a very, hindi naman, parang medyo nainis ako kay Talyien sa Ikasar Falcon. So medyo hindi ganun ka-hype yung experience ko. And in comparison to The Wolf of Orenyaro. But dito kasi parang there was something about Talyien in the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG that I was like really hooked, and I'm just rooting for her all the time. And siguro later we're gonna talk about her character development. But for right now, everything is so good. Sabi nga ni Gerald, chef's kiss. Yon. So, let's do this. Trish, hindi ko talaga alam kung nasa yung Arro ngayon. Go, mom.
Sa akin, ano ba, yung conclusion, ay hindi ko alam. As in, nung nag-start ako ng Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, sabi ko, I don't know kung paano to tatapusin ni Kay. Paano mo tatapusin with everything that is going on? Tapos, hindi ko alam kung saan niya kinukuha yung brain power niya. Paano niya naisip na ito? It's just, hindi, kagaya ni Kat, hindi ako sure if bobo lang ako. Pero wala talaga ako makitang loopholes. She tied everything. Tight yung ending. Tight lahat. As in, parang na-adjust niya lahat that was needed to adjust. And para for me, it was the only ending for this trilogy. This was the only possible ending for this trilogy. Wala na. Lahat ng mga multiverse, lahat ng alternate universe, ganito din yung ending sa trilogy. Wala na ibang ending, ito lang. And then, for the trilogy as a whole, yung feeling ko is parang, naalala niyo yung, if you re-watch yung mga movies, tapos may parang yung feeling na kahit every time you read it or may malaman ka na additional information, it makes you see the previous books in a different light. Parang may mga realizations ka. May isang sinabi doon si Kate before na about sa topic na who was writing what. Tapos parang, nga no, dito pa sa last book na parang na-finalize, na-reveal who was writing what. For the previous two books, parang just that kind of thought to detail, parang makikita mo talaga how well Kay Villoso planned this out. And just na-amaze talaga ako. 5 stars. 5 stars lahat! 5 stars lahat! Ayun. Next is Shelea.
Galit ka ba,
Oh my
Trish?
God.
Okay,
Galit
pero wait.
ka ba?
Bago tayo magsimula sa comment ni Chilea, sabi ni Donna, Shigar,
The only reason.
we're all here for that.
Masasagot na po ngayong gabi, mga kababayan.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Wait. So actually for context, so the series was parang self-published at first and it was republished by Orbit, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, pero parang si Kate, she parang 1 decade niya ata, parang she worked on the series for many, many years talaga. And I think that really shows when you look at yung build of the entire series and how everything was wrapped up towards the end. So for me naman, like when I started The Wolf of Orenyaro, I liked it because it was the first adult fantasy, with the Filipino main character, and it was so unapologetically Filipino, not just in terms of like the food that was being done or the practices, but also the themes explored in the book. So I was really like, oh my god, I love this. But then nung the Ikasar Falcon, although I really enjoyed it and I liked how it really expanded the story, na it became bigger than Talyien, and parang sobrang solid niya as a sequel. Parang by the end of the Ikasar Falcon, I was angry at everyone, including Talyien. So parang yung feels ko was like no rights for everyone except for Kine. And I was wondering how can parang in the last book, how can Kay sort of reel me back in and want to support Talyien kasi sobrang galit ko talaga sa kanya in the second book. I feel like the second book really showed us her flaws as a leader and kung paano siyang naging part of a system that actively oppresses and continues to like fail its people. So, yun yung naging struggle ko. But then, I was really surprised na in the third book, aside from liking Talyien again, I also ended up sort of, if not liking, at least sympathizing with all the characters, including RAYYEL. I know, I was really angry also. But, and I was the biggest advocate for like killing him off. But may konting silbi naman pala siya, so I will give him that. and and the reason for the 1 star is that actually, like, honestly, and I talked with Kate about this as well, I think the Dragon of Jin-Sayeng is the most impressive conclusion I've ever read, especially for adult fantasy. You know, I've read other fantasy series and parang none of them have really impacted me the way that this conclusion has. And parang there's no, usually kasi when I read something may alternate ending ako na I can sort of like pair with the current ending. But for this one, wala talaga kasi akong complaints about it. And for the kaya may 1 stars kasi after I finished the book, I messaged Kay, like first, I said, Kay, ganyan, I told her my reaction. And then she said, you know what, maybe we should scare the reader. So I was like, okay, sige, I'll 1 star. And that's like the story behind it. But takutin ko daw kayo. And I was like, you know, I'm here to serve my queen. So ginawa ko naman.
Betrayal! I
Ay,
feel you.
nasagot na.
So that's like, Kay was like, when I shared the screenshot of my texts, Kay was like, oh.
On brand yung pag-betray mo sa amin siya, Leia. It's very on brand with the series.
Yes.
Yes, betrayal is a key theme in the series.
Alam,
That is
witty
true.
nyo.
Oh my God. Okay, go.
Galing nyo. Ikaw, Kate.
So Trish kind of mentioned it earlier, pero I want to expand on it a little more. So, Trish mentioned that an example of like how tightly woven and just the sheer attention of detail of Kay Villoso as a writer to this series is how, diba, it starts off in The Wolf of Arro and then in the Ikasar Falcon. There are occasional like intervals where Talyien says that she's writing the story and then she says she's in the house of someone named Sayu. And throughout book 1, book 2, you're like, who the hell is this person? And then when the reveal comes in book 3, who Sayu is, it like just really... Yon, if you've read The Dragon of Jin-Sayeng and you know na who Sayu is, it's really like that. So like that's a perfect example, in my opinion, of just the sheer attention to detail, as in. And yun nga, like Shalea mentioned, Kay Villoso has been writing this book, has been working on this series for almost 10 years now. So prior to it being picked up by Orbit, it was self-published. So this is just really like a master at this craft. Alam mo yun? Sabi ko nga, when I finished the book, I texted Shalea and I was like, I feel simultaneously so inspired to like to work on my WIP, get better at writing, improve my craft, because of the sheer excellence that I've just held. But also at the same time, I feel so different because like I'll never reach this level of greatness ever. So it's a double-edged sword. I also want to echo what Shalea said. Like, no shade. I don't mean any shade to other adult fantasy books, but like this is literally the best conclusion to an adult fantasy series I've ever read, bar none. Like, I mean, you all know how I'm gonna name names. I'm sorry, but you all know how much I love the Poppy War, City of Brass, and I'm sorry, pero in my opinion, although I did love the Burning God and then the Empire of Gold, I did like them. In my opinion, just the excellence of that craft doesn't hold a candle to what I felt about the Dragon of Jin-Sayeng. I mean, I'm not saying that one book is better than the other, pero like in my opinion lang kasi there were things about other adult fantasy trilogy endings that I didn't vibe with, or that it wasn't the ending that I was expecting, or it wasn't the ending that I felt fit with the world that the author had laid out in the past two books. But literally this one, The Dragon of Jin-Sayeng, I have zero complaints, and like I've never felt this way about the ending of a series before, like ever. So yun.
So, 5 stars tayo lahat dito.
Yes.
Yes, I would
Bingo.
change my rating after this, promise. Naka 1 star pa rin.
1 star pa rin si Shilea.
Papalitan ko after this, promise.
So ayun, naka 5-star bingo si Miss K.S. Villoso sa amin. We're going to move on with the next section, which is the characters. At this point, third book na tayo. We all know who the characters are, so I don't think we need to discuss them one by one. And I'm assuming na the audience also knows them. So I guess we're going to discuss them with parang in a very specific context. And let's start with Tali. So sorry ha, nung in-outline ko to parang question lang. So sabihan niyo ako if mabilis ako. So regarding Tali, what are your thoughts on Tali's character development in this book? How would you compare her to the previous two books, the way she was in the previous two books? And what specifically about Tali did you think she had growth or change in this last book? Nag-gets niyo yun? Nag-copy niyo? Good. Joke. So, same pa rin ba? Same pa rin kasi parang high quality yung answer sa baba. Tapos tayong tatlo, parang sabog natin.
Grabe!
Ano tayo dito? Ganito lang tayo para may filler silang dalawa.
Oo. Feel lang
Alam mo
kami.
yung sagot ko, pang ano lang, general lang talaga. Yung sila talagang, detail
Specific.
talaga.
Tayo pang grade 1, pang grade 10. Yung sagot nila.
Hindi kasi namin kaya i-put into words. So, kayo na put into words para sa amin.
At saka
Honestly.
na-process na nila. Yeah.
Pero,
Kapag nagsasalita silang dalawa, sabi ko, ang galing ng mga thought process nila talaga. Ano nila nagagawa.
Iba. Okay, huwag ka na Gerald. Next, ikaw na magsasagot.
Sabi ko na lang, I love it. Yun na lang sa akin talaga.
tatlong question, I love it.
Hindi, okay. So, nung na-close yung second book of this series, yung The Ikisar Falcon, talagang ini-expect ko will be Tali will be this, changed human, kumbaga, a changed person, a changed leader, ganon. Yung, ang ina-expect ko, magiging abrupt yung changes, yung parang umpisa pa lang ng book 3, agad, okay, babaguhin natin yan, ganon. Akala ko ganon ang gagawin niya. We are going to be better. Parang ganon ang ini-expect ko na magiging ang Tali. But it's a different kind of change ang nangyari kay Tali. It's not what I'm expecting, but I love it. Ayun, talaga nagamit talaga yung word, I love it. It's not what I'm expecting, pero I enjoyed it and I love it more than what I expect. Tama ba yung English ko? Basta yun siya. Kumbaga, mas gusto ko yung nangyari kaysa sa iniisip ko na mangyayari. Ganon. And sobrang worth it yung paghihintay ko doon sa change na yun ni Tali because I am greatly satisfied with it. Alam mo yun, yung parang, sobrang flawed pa rin ni Tali. Sobrang dami pa rin ang hindi niya alam at sobrang sakit ang mga pinagdaanan niya, ng mga revelation. Yun hindi ko na kaya, mga mamshi. Yung revelation ng mga buhay ni Tali na Diyos ko, yung simula pala hindi pa siya pinapanganak, pinaplano pa lang jugjugin ni Yeshin itong nanay niya is planado na pala ang buhay ni Tali, mga mamster. Yun talaga ang hindi ko kinaya, na talaga na-stress ako para kay Tali, but I believe that molds Tali to be the Talyien that we love right now. So, ayun, I just love it. Mahal ko si Tali. Gagawin ko lahat para kay Tali. Oo. Pero pwede ko yung agawin si Khine because I love Khine. Pero Tali, saludo ko sa'yo, Tali. Yun masabi ko. Oo.
Ay,
Oh my
kita
God.
pero ang gawin ko si Kai.
Actually, same. Copy paste. No, I think kasi parang with Talyen's character arc, it was very interesting because yun nga, tulad na sinabi ni Gerald, it's very flawed. And usually kasi, with how we are used to read fantasy books, sometimes like the main character, the protagonist, they're usually like, the ones na sobrang perfect, or sila kagad, they know everything, na parang they know better, etc. etc. And in the first book, in The Wolf of Orenyaro, like I was really amazed with Talyien. Na parang talagang throughout the beginning hanggang sa end talaga ng Wolf of Orenyaro, I was rooting for her. And then the Ikasar Falcon happened. And then nainis na ako sa character niya. Like, oh my God, you have a lot of shit. Alam mo yon, parang gusto ko sabihin kay Talia na, girl, you gotta pick yourself up kasi I'm rooting for you, but right now I'm not liking you. And then I kind of realized with that book that, there are characters that you don't necessarily like them all the time. And I think that makes them more human. And I've always been saying this, na mas gusto ko yung mga characters na parang mas relatable yung characters nila because they're flawed. And, the author has a great way of like humanizing Talyien in my eyes. So yun yung although hindi ko masyado siya nagustuhan sa Ikasar Falcon, but yun yung takeaway ko from that book. And then this one, tama si Gerald, it's not like parang naisip ni Talyien na, okay, dahil third book na tayo, kailangan nagbago na ako. It wasn't really like that. It was still a progress, but it was a progress that you are, very excited what will happen to the end or to the conclusion. It was something na I was looking forward to. Nakikita mo pa rin yung flaws niya. You will still see that she's imperfect. She's an imperfect leader. She still has like so much emotions na parang her emotions are like going over her head. Hindi siya nakakapag-isip ng maayos. She's also very impulsive, to be honest. Like, if she thinks that this is the right way, then she's gonna do it. Also, she doesn't listen. She's very stubborn as a character, right? So parang sa akin, and then very introspective pa din siya. Like from Wolf of Orenyaro hanggang third book, lagi ko sinasabi to kay Trish at kay Gerald, she always thinks talaga, kung saan nanggagaling yung emotions niya, kung saan yung actions niya, behaviors niya, and kung laging alam niya kung saan yung root nung actions niya, at saka nung feelings niya, and it always goes back to her father, which is still like very evident in the third book. And gusto ko yun kasi hindi tinanggal ni Kay Villoso yung pinaka-importanting element ng character ni Talyien. And I think that makes Talyien more, I don't know, probably more relatable, and with that it's more, intriguing to root for her until the end. So what I really like about the third book is even though Talyien is still flawed, there's still a development of how she sees the world. Hindi na lang siya, hindi na lang ito. It's not really hindi na lang umiikot sa akin lahat yung mundo. There's still a lot of things that are happening outside. And even though hindi ko pa yun alam, parang yung dating sa akin, even though hindi ko pa alam kung ano yung tama kong gagawin, I'm gonna do it because I believe na I have to help other people as well. And I don't know, with like the conclusion kasi, parang natuwa lang ako kasi, yun nga, there are, I don't know how to explain it without like telling the conclusion itself. Siguro mamaya ko dala explain. Pero sobrang natuwa lang ako how it ended kasi parang natuwa ako para kay Talyien. Like finally, nakuha na niya yung rest deserve niya. Parang gano'n, nakuha niya yung deserve niyang rest. Like finally, yung lang yung na-feel ko all throughout. So yeah, I just really love her character arc. I think mas minahal ko siya sa Dragon of JIN-SAYENG. Except, in compared to dun sa first two books. So yeah, her character development in here, chef's kiss. That's it. Go, Trish!
Nag-disappear si Shalea.
Yes, ma'am. Disconnect siya at wala pa siya ulit sa studio.
Sige.
Itayin na lang natin.
Sa akin, yan nga, the same with Gerald. I know parang ang unfair, ang cheesy. Pero I guess a part of me did expect na by the third book, drastic na yung change with Talyien. Like, go, change. Parang ganun. But I really love how Kay Villoso molded Talyien. Kasi, I guess what I guess yung specific change na nakita ko sa kanya compared sa previous 2 books is she knows kung saan na siya nagkulang. So, when she is faced with criticism, hindi na siya, syempre, human nature to be defensive, but hindi na siya ganun ka-defensive na parang in denial na talaga siya. And, yung there's always this, parang may binabalik na, parang hindi naman in-emphasize, pero parang binabalik kay Tali, especially when she interacts with her people na, yes, you may know about what's going on. It doesn't mean na you understand. Nandito pa rin kami. We're still reaping the consequences ng actions niyo or ng inactions niyo. And parang yung growth ni Tali was para sa akin was very human, very realistic. Like, she's just trying her best. She knows what she has to do. She's going to do that. Gagawin na niya. Pero prone pa rin siya. May mga lapses pa rin siya because she's human. And given sa lahat na nalalaman niya about her life, I mean, I won't fault her for being emotional or impulsive. Like, when it comes to Khine, medyo naiinis ako, to be honest. Pero when it comes sa family niya, her reactions regarding that sa ibang aspect na like na, I honestly can't fault her. And sa totoo lang, ayaw ko siyang i-fault, especially when sa lahat ng players dito, sa lahat ng mga characters in position, parang siya lang yung nag-e-effort eh. Ano bang ginagawa ni Rai dyan? Parang, you know what? Give Tali some room or some space to breathe kasi she's trying. Okay? Parang, ganun. Yan lang. Thank you. Parang ang galit ko, sorry.
Gusto ko ipagbababigyan ng emotion. Yung gano'n.
Yung emotions ni Trish kayo, parang, mataas, tapos bumababa.
Sorry.
Go. Kasi siya Leia na yata.
Okay. So sidebar. Today is Mother's Day. And Tali's a mother. Tapos napaisip ko tuloy ako. Happy Mother's Day, Tali. Anyway, so the thing about this series is that it's very much parang Tali makes or breaks the series because it's so centered on her and her decisions and also how she defines herself. Because the thing about her kasi is that she has a lot of roles to play, right? So she's a mother, she is someone's wife, but she's also in a position of power. And then there's also that shadow of being Yeshin's daughter and what that means and what people come to expect from her given that. I think among all the roles that Tali is expected to play, parang she's really burdened by the legacy of her father. And I think that's something that the series tackles throughout all the books, of like what it means to carry such a legacy, especially when it's someone who is regarded as this really villainous person and ganon. And what I like about this, like, it's really interesting to me how so much can happen. Like, ang sobrang eventful ng series. Pero it's all sort of, not really caused by, pero it is sort of influenced by what Tali does. And it very much reminds me of talaga of Filipino women and the many roles that they have to play. I think I mentioned this na rin sa previous live show before. That's really how Filipino women in society are expected to fulfill certain things all the time. Pagod, nakaka-stress. Sila yung ilaw ng tahanan and stuff. But what makes it a bit more complicated or adding on.
No!
Nag-freeze ata si...
Siya yung AI? So, yung ko. Nanginig yung header. Okay, so Shilea is like, okay, she's sad. Now, ganda pa naman sabi ni Shilea nakakaano.
Oh,
now, go ahead muna, Ma'am Shikate. Let's go.
Sige. So, echoing lang yung sinabi ni Shilea about it being Mother's Day. So, the author, Kay Villoso, is also a mom. So, happy Mother's Day din kay Kay Villoso. Oh, Shilea is back.
Hello, why are we 6? Or ako lang ba?
Hello!
Hala.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. I was scared. Baka may mag-on. Tapos ibang face yung nilitaw. And
Ah,
scary.
lalabas ako dito, bala kayo dyan.
Yeshin be like, heard you were talking shit about me.
Akala nyo.
As you were saying, Ma'am She Girl.
So as I was saying, so although Tali is a woman and she faces struggles because of that, especially compared to RAYYEL, ganyan, there are double standards that she has to deal with. She's also a woman with extreme privilege kasi nga she has a position of power, she has access to all these things that other people don't. So it's kind of interesting kasi nga you can really see the access of like the different ways she is, not really, like the way she struggles and how they sort of like come into play. It's very dynamic, it's very nuanced, which I like. And I also enjoyed her character arc talaga kasi, oh my God, nawala na naman ba ako? Oh,
Okay ka lang.
okay, sorry.
Gerald,
Nawala
nawala
na.
ang camera.
Kinabahan ako. I like her character arc kasi nga I like how it's not a very straightforward growth na sometimes she regresses, sometimes sometimes she grows unexpectedly, like it's in the right direction pero it manifests differently. So it's really well thought of. And like I said, I really struggled with her nung sa second book kasi parang mas naging emphasize na yung privilege niya as this person with power, as this person who leads a bunch of people and who's responsible for this nation. We really saw the flaws of her leadership and how unaware she was of the things happening in her land. So very naano rin ako na, how am I gonna like this girl? But in the third book, it really comes together and you can see that yeah, she's trying, which is so much more than you can say compared to the other people in the court or in whatever. And she's really actively trying to learn. And we do see some fruit naman of her trying. And ayun. So I'm very satisfied with her arc. It took us so long to get to this point, but I am happy.
Oo nga, ang tagal, but we got there.
We got there. It was a journey, but we got there.
Iron Man tayo, papunta doon, pero nandito tayo. Ikaw, Kate.
So pardon me na lang for making this comparison, no, but like and like I apologize in advance for like name dropping again and relating it to real life stuff, but I keep telling this to people, to fellow Filipinos who read this series, but Talyien reminds me of Lenny Robredo. Okay, let me explain, okay? So like, she's not perfect. I mean, God knows, I mean, with the vice president also of our country is also not perfect. There's lots of room for error, there's lots of room for improvement, and also when you consider the fact that both the character and the real life comparison that I'm making come from wealthy, privileged families, you can't really know, or when you do know, you can't really say that you understand the plight of the masa. So that's a very common theme that's explored then. Like, okay, so alam mo yung plight ng masa, o ano na yung susunod. But to echo also what Shalea said, and also why I made this comparison to the vice president, Talyien is one of the few people involved in the JIN-SAYENG government that you can sort of at least trust that this person is actively trying to do what's right for the JIN-SAYENG people. So the character development that I really loved the most from Talyien was in the first book and even in the second book, when things are pointed out to her that this is happening in the Sogan, this is happening in the Kag, you don't know about it, wala kang ginagawa, like the royals don't give a shit about us. Her first instinct was to be angry. And if you compare it, parang it seems na tama lang na dapat magalit siya because she's just been through hell trying to come back from the Zoroho Empire and looking for her husband, looking for her son, all of the shit that she's been through in the Wolf of Oreñaro and then the Ikesar Falcon. And then suddenly here's this peasant coming up to me and saying na that I don't care about the farmers and that they're starving and I haven't done anything about it. And parang the thought process there is like, I've just been running for my life, bitch. Like, what the fuck do you want me to do? But also, when you come now to, like, diba, sabi ko, it's been a journey, but we got here. Towards the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, you really start to see that Talyen's notion really isn't na just because I'm a royal doesn't mean my troubles my troubles might be bigger because of the position in life that fate has granted me. But it doesn't put my troubles, my interpersonal troubles, above the troubles of the nation. So, like, I really like, there's a part in the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG that I really feel encapsulated sobra Talyen's character development. And I don't remember na the circumstances around the story. It was a very small moment lang. But she was saying something about how it's so, parang it was really just suckish talaga that they were super concerned about Than's parentage, and yung biyanan niyang buisit siyang mamatay na siya, showing up in showing up in the castle and all of that, and the whole thing about Agos, and like we're having a trial, we're focusing on all of these things, we're devoting so many resources to this bullshit, and people are dying in the Sogen, rice fields are being burned down. So, like, having that acknowledgement, yeah, it was like a woman who was telling her na, like, oh, you know about our problems, but what are you doing about it? And then Talyien just sort of takes it in stride, and then she's just like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get that that's happening, and I'm trying my best. But she doesn't get offended anymore. She's just like, you know what, it's true. Oh, I'm not diminishing the difficulties that we go through as royals and the spotlight that's on us. We were given this position by fate, and therefore it has this obligation attached to it. And if we're not going to fulfill that obligation, then what the hell even are we here for? So, like, that realization for me, that small conversation between Talyien and that peasant woman, it happened right after the trial, I think, yung determining the trial to determine Than's parentage. That really small interaction for me encapsulated that entire character arc that Talyien went from the Wolf of Orenyara to the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, in realizing that although she does have these difficulties, there are still parameters of class and gender, especially class, to consider, and that it was a burden that it is a burden. No one's saying it's not a burden, but it is a burden that she took on. So with that burden comes responsibilities aside from the position and the wealth of being a queen. So yun. Yeah.
We love her.
Oh, parang I think that's doon yung naging super layered at complex yung when you take Tali as a character, because ako as a person, hindi ako royal, hindi ako richness. When I see Tali, para sa akin, like, bakit wala kang ginagawa? Parang ganun yung first impression ko, especially in the previous two books. Pero as a person, hindi ko ma-discredit yung struggles niya with her, how she is treated with her family. Parang ganun, I cannot discredit because what her struggles are real. At the same time, ang hirap ko because you are still in a position of power. I mean, you took, there were years that she wasn't able to do what she had to do because she had to deal with her husband. And para sa kanya, parang years lang, I mean, the years that she took to deal with her husband, parang hindi yan luxury para sa mga tao niya. Like, the years that she had to deal with Rai had consequences sa mga tao niya. So while yes, Tali, parang ganun, parang masakit para kay Tali, parang parang may mas, hindi naman kino-compare yung mga problema, pero parang hindi lang ikaw yung nadadamay. Parang ganun. Parang hindi lang ikaw yung nadadamay sa nangyayari sa'yo. And I guess that's doon talaga parang naging complex yung situation ni Tali, yung character niya. Kasi she has to carry the burden of hers and this whole country's problems. Parang ganun.
You guys know the phrase, two things can be true. It's like a very popular meme phrase that you see around on Twitter na both things can be true or two things can be true. I think that's super applicable to Talyen's situation na yun nga, yes, your family life is difficult. Yes, you have your own personal burdens, but that doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in this bigger macrocosm of the fact that you are a government official and that you have people, thousands, hundreds and thousands of people relying on you and the decisions that you make to get by. So yon. There's another moment, hindi ko na maalala if this was in the Ikesar Falcon or in the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG. But like, there was a comment about this certain law that Talyien passed, and then parang si Rayel ata yung nagkakwento nito, and then sabi niya, the law was pretty good. And then Talyien was like, si Arro yung nagsulat nun.
Sa Dragon yan.
Sa Dragon yan.
Tapos, pero I think sa Dragon, marami talagang moments na parang Tali is reminded of that fact. Yung hindi ko makalimutan na moment is papunta na sila sa Yuyan, sa Sugan. Tapos yung first village na pinuntahan nila, yung na-realize ng mga tao na, it's the queen. Tapos parang sabi ng village leader ba yun na, anong magagawa namin? Anong magagawa namin? Parang ganun. And then si Tali parang masakit para sa kanya because wala siyang magagawa. She has to do this. And because she has to do this, alam niya it will come at the cost of these villagers. Parang ganun. Ayan. Na-stress ako. Na-stress ako. Hindi-imagine ko stress ni Tali. Ang hirap. Pero yun, that's it for Tali. Ang gaganda ng answers natin. Wow. Next. Oh my God. Excited ako. Next. Si Rayel. And then I have 2 questions. Pero yung first question talaga yung gusto ko, ha? Please listen. What do you think about the reveal regarding Rayel having another son, especially knowing the events of the previous books? And then yung follow-up question is, do you think there was growth or change in his character by the end of the book? Ganon. Please react tayo. Caps lock tayo lahat. Because alam ko marami tayong feelings. Audience members, react din kayo dyan.
Naalala ko. Wow! Naalala ko, that is chapter 10 of Act 1. Yun yung pinagsisigawan talaga ni Trish na, oh my God, i-chat nyo ako kapag chapter 10 na kayo ng Act 1.
Like every single day, nasabi ni Trish, i-chat nyo ako pag nasa chapter 10 na kayo.
Alam nyo, ganun din si Kate kasi sa akin, like, Trish, chapter 10 ka na ba? Trish, chapter 10 ka na ba?
Like every single time. Okay, Gerald, what's your reaction first?
Nabasa ko siya 3 a.m. And talagang tingin ko yung chance ko, minessage ko talaga si Trish ng ang kapal ng mukha ni Rayel at nag-tweet ako na minura ko si Rayel because ang kapal ng pagmumukha ni Rayel para umaksyon siya. Akala niya wala siyang kasalanan. Buong 2 libro, 2 makapal na libro, umaksyon siya. Nakala mo wala siyang ginawang masama. Nakala mo ang linis-linis ng pagkatao niya. Pero nalaman natin na kaya pala siya blank face, kaya pala siya poker face is that is because iniiwasan niya na mailabas niya ang tinatago niyang sikreto at kasamaan at kadimunyuhan. Oh my God. Ang lakas ng loob niya na punahin ang kasalanan ni Talyien to the point na dumating pa na kailangan ni Talyien na masakripisyo ang buhay niya. Tapos malalaman natin na siya pala, sarili niya, ay ganun din ang ginagawa. Ang kapal ng pagmumukha ni Rayel. And si Talyien lang ang tumakbo para ang buhay niya ay masagip. Si Rayel, anong ginawa? Naghanap ng mage na mag-DNA sa anak niya. Sis, hindi ko kinakaya si Rayel. Okay. So, sabi nga ni Donna, typical Filipino men. Typical Filipino men. Bitch.
On point.
Rayel is like every hasyendero or boy in every telenovela ever. Alam mo yung hindi ko na maalala yung pangalan ng character or ng actor, pero like for example, if you have a telenovela and then the male love interest character is like played by Jericho Rosales, yung kalaban niya si Rayel.
Like, yung parang super guwapo or super soft, like super like,
yaman and all of that.
privileged. Yes. Yes. Tapos yun, fuckboy pala. Like, yes, on point.
Like in modern times, Rayel would be like that guy texting you at 2 a.m. saying, "Hey, you up?" Bitch!
Oh my God, Rael. Okay,
Okay,
continue,
come
Gerald.
here often.
Yun nga, ang tigas ng mukha niya, sabi ni Rovi, which I agree, ang tigas ng pagmumukha ni Rayel para mag-iwan at hindi alagaan ang dalawang anak niya.
Dalawang anak niya.
Dalawang anak, hindi nagkaroon ng tatay.
He's literally the guy na maraming panganay. You know that joke? Siya yun!
Nagkukulag ko ng panganay ko po yan. Grabe siya man. Woo! Okay, but anyways, Rayel, at the end, hindi na ma-redeem sa akin si Rayel after the chapter 10. Alam niyo, umpisa ko ng chapter 10 ha, nung tinawag pala, nung inakusahan na siya ni Tali, nung inanon siya ni Tali, yung sinabihan siya na, alam mo ba na minahal kita noon, nung ginanon siya ni Tali, di ba? Naglabas ang mga loob sa Ate Joy. Please, binabasa ko yun, iyak talaga ako, naiyak talaga kasi nafe-feel ko talaga si Tali na parang, binigay ko sa'yo ang lahat, yung parang ganon. Ito naman ngayon si Rayel, since nag-cringe talaga ako, sabi niya, can we do this again? My wife, can we start over again? My wife, ay ko, bitch, ang cringe ng my wife mo. Umayos ka. Hindi ko siya gusto. Hindi ko talaga siya gusto na sa panahon na, hindi ko nalaman na, Rayel, kahit na iharap mo sa akin ang pututoy mo, hindi ko yan magagawa. Wala akong pakialam. Wala akong pakialam sa pututoy mo, sa'yo na yan. Ayun, hindi na mariredeem sa akin si Rayel ever. Hindi na siya mariredeem sa akin. Thank you.
Oh,
Uminit.
Oh my God. That was so on point. But yeah, well, from the first book naman, just the fact that she left Talyien just because he left Talyien just because he thought na Talyien was cheating on him, like since that, pre-married etc. ganyan. From that moment, I really didn't like Rayel. Pero I was thinking na baka magkaroon siya ng character development kasi syempre, di ba, asawa siya ni Tali, tas tatay siya. So parang okay naman. So si lang talaga, si Trish kasi yung medyo simp kay Rayel sa tatlo. So medyo nag-expect na ako na, alam niyo yun, medyo sana bumawi siya kasi kawawa naman si Trish, masasaktan talaga siya ng tuluyan, ganyan. So, the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG happened, and then Trish was like, bitches, text me, chat me, whatever time it is when you reach chapter 10, hindi pwedeng ako lang yung nagagalit. So when you reach chapter 10, talagang, I was like, oh my God, real. Like, this is the point that I draw the line na hindi na talaga siya ma-redeem. Same with Gerald, hindi talaga siya na-redeem sa akin throughout the book. Because, first off, like, it's very typical Filipino fathers, not just like men, but like fathers. Well, hindi naman nila deserve to be called father at all. And secondly, nung una nga naisip ko mas masasaktan ako para kay Talyien kung nagpakaama siya kay Anino. Kasi ibig sabihin, she left them for 5 years and he left them for 5 years and then he was like doubting kung tatay ba talaga siya ni Tan, tapos magiging tatay siya ng, well, anak din naman niya yun technically, but you know, parang mas masakit sa akin. Pero na-realize ko, nung nalaman ko na hindi rin siya naging tatay kay Anino for all throughout that years, like, what the F, Rayel? Double kill ka na. Ano ba? So, parang, I was so mad. When I learned from Chiha, diba, they have like this confrontation, Chiha and silang tatlo within that room na basta may kasama din silang iba. And then I found out that Chiha was like forcing Rayel to like say the truth na for like in the past years, ganyan. Tapos parang sinabi din ni Chiha na you abandoned us for years also. So parang what the F? Oh my God, Rayel, hindi ko alam na meron ka pang i-worse. Yun lang yung gusto ko sabihin. Hindi ko na in-expect na yung character. The bar was in hell.
The bar was in hell. And then, nagdala siya ng shovel.
Tapos, parang meron pa pala palang meron pa palang ikakademonyo yung ugali ni Rayel. Like, oh my God. Tapos tama si Gerald when sinabi niya na, we gotta start all over again. And, oh my God, you're so typical fuckboy. Oh my God, I can't take this. Adult fantasy ba talaga yung si Rayel? Or YA ba to? Ano ba? Naiinis ako. YA ba? Trip ako. Parang
YA
cringy niya. Ay, okay, so yun. In short, walang redeemable factor sa akin siguro. Siguro the only thing na parang naawa lang ako sa kanya kasi he was brought up by the family of like the Princess Rhea. I don't know if it's pronounced Rhea. Princess Rhea, ikisar siya. Yun lang yung pinaka-naawa ko sa kanya kasi ang worst din nung nanay niya. So yun lang. Pero that's it. That's like, okay, tama na, awa lang pero hindi ka na ma-redeem sa akin. Yun lang. Grabe, parang nagigigil ako. Parang
That's not an excuse. Your family is not an excuse, bitch. Okay.
Your trauma is not an excuse, Rayel. You're a grown-up man. Be a man. Like, oh my God. I was so mad. Okay, anyway, kalma tayo. Magsasalita na po sila. So, kami kasi dito, puro emotions. galit ka na, Rayel. Ay, wait, si Trish pa pala. Ikaw pa ba, Trish? Magsalita ko. Si Trish pala muna. Okay, sorry.
Okay, while playing... Go.
Nung nag-start ako sa Dragon Republic, ayun nga, nung Water War ni Arro.
This Dragon Republic.
Sorry! Dami
Hey,
dragon
bitch.
kasi.
Wait lang for the record, bitch.
Ibang dragon.
Sadali, hindi mo pa nababasa yung Dragon Republic. Gusto mo nang i-discuss.
Chapter 4 pa rin ako. 3 months na. 3 months na chapter 4 pa rin ako. Pero sorry. Dragon of JIN-SAYENG. Ayun nga, sabi, the past 2 books, sa aming tatlo sa Trihoes, ako lang talaga yung supporter ni Rayel before. And starting Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, I was ready na going into this live show. Ako pa rin yung only defender ni Rayel. And then, sabi ni Kate, chapter 10, tawagan mo ako at 2 a.m., nanginginig ako kasi my hands were literally shaking. Sabi ko, Kate, tawag tayo ngayon! Yung, alam niyo yung sa trial na scene na napatunayan na anak niya si Tan, alam mo, I've always imagined that scene to be parang vindication, parang ganun. Pero yung feeling ko was just sobrang nakakapagod. So, 2 books of this. So, it was your son. And then, I'm not gonna lie, magagalit si Gerald at si Kato, pero sa scene na sabi ni Rayel, wala na bang chance? Baka maka-learn ka pa. I'm not gonna lie, parang, ang sakit. Parang sa akin kasi, shinare ko to kay Kate, para sa akin, in another world, in another time, on paper, they would have been perfect kasi yung circumstances nila may mga similarities sila, parang ganun. Tapos yung vibe kasi yung sabi ni Kate, yung vibe nila, si Rayel daw yung parang yung tahimik lang, tapos if may mag-aaway sa kanya, si Tali yung wife na sila ba nag-aaway sa asawa ko, parang ganun yung trope nila. And okay, by chapter 10, doon na talaga, wala na talaga, as in I cannot defend trash. Like, what do you want from me, Rayel? Tapos, no, yung sabi ni Talyien na I don't know if I'm going to feel good or bad about the fact na hindi lang ako yung babae na iniwan mo na may anak. Like, shit, double trash. Sabi nga ni Kat, double kill. So ayun, yan yung reaction ko sa chapter 10. Yan yung reaction ko sa reveal ni Rayel. Because the audacity lang talaga. Walang hiya. Walang hiya. Hindi ko kaya. Pero, anyway, sa ending, feeling ko kasi kahit all this time, parang may soft spot pa rin ako sa kanya. Pero, I guess I appreciate him trying na, okay, si Talyien needs to rest. Na ako naman mag-step up. And not going to lie either, yung scene na parang tinorture siya ni Yubek, that was kind of badass. Sabi niya, I know how many water drops are in this bucket, bitch. Parang ganun. So, okay. That was kind of cool. Pero, ayun, to be honest, I didn't really see a lot of ano ba, hindi naman, para sa akin ha, parang wala akong nakita na growth kay Rayel because that's how he always was. Parang hindi lang nakafocus yung efforts niya dyan. His efforts were focused on proving if Tan was that or not. Pero ngayon na parang na-refocus na yung attention niya. I guess ganun siya. Pero until the end, parang ganun pa rin siya eh. So, lalo.
May development ba talaga? O wala? Ganun. Mas sumama. Oo, yun ang development niya. Mas sumama siya. Pero ayun, wag kang magalit. Wag kang mahiya, Trish, because may karamay ka naman talaga sa pag-aasam na si Rayel ay maging okay sana. Pero hindi sa point kayo ni Rayel. Ay, nako. Okay. Let's go to Shalea. Let's go.
Palabas mo.
So, actually, kasi since I read the book before all of you, sobrang kawawa ako kasi I had no one to rant to. Guess, so parang when I reached that chapter, and then, tapos naka-ebook siya. Sabi ko, ba't di pa dumating yung arc ko para pwede ko siya ihagis? Hindi ko siya mahagis kasi mahal iPad ko.
What a fucking mood!
Wala pa akong kausap.
This iPad was like 40,000. I can't throw this at the wall. I felt that deep in my soul.
I really felt so violent talaga. I thought the Icazor Falco was the most violent I'd ever feel in my life. But that specific chapter, I was like so ready to throw down. And then, di ko sure if message ko si Kay na inaway ko siya. Di ko na sure. Ito sa parang blind rage na ako during that time. Basta naalala ko lang galit ako. I agree with what everyone says. I've always been against Rayel naman from the beginning. Like, lagi ko naman sinasabi, like, hashtag no rights for Rayel. And then, sinabi ko rin naman yung kay Kay. Sabi ko, if nawala siya sa third book, not a loss. And true enough, hindi naman talaga siya loss. But I will say it did surprise me. I mean, I won't say that his character was redeemed throughout the book. I think that's a very strong word kasi parang ang masasabi ko lang kay Rael is that he parang at the very least, which is like really bare minimum, parang he was holding himself accountable na for what he did in the past. And hindi ko siya gusto as a person. But I will say that I can sympathize with what he went through and siguro the thought processing kung ba't ganyan siya. So yun, hanggang sympathy and pity lang ako. I won't say na, I like him or ganyan. Or I also have my hopes up na maging matinong person siya someday in the future. Pero at least at this point, I get it na. Parang, diba Kate, parang we were talking about this rin, na parang we don't like him, but we can sort of have a better understanding na rin to his character, which I like kasi it's better than having a character na sobrang trash, pero walang sense yung pagka-trash niya. But at least for this guy, even though he's trash, parang you can sort of kind of, like not justify, pero you can sort of see kung bakit naging nun yung outcome. Like may sort of, not illogic, pero may sort of like flow of something that led to this. So yun yung na-appreciate ko sa kanya. During the scene na humingi siya ng second chance kay Tali, like a fool. Parang, like a fool. I laughed actually during that scene kasi sabi ni Tali na hindi ba siya aware na may repercussions yung actions niya? Parang ganun siyang commentary na parang based on his reaction, it never occurred to him na baka mawala si Tali or si Tali mismo ayaw na sa kanya. And I laughed at him talaga. I was like, good for you. Nasaktan ako, pero at the same time, tuwa ako sa kanya. Kasi sobrang head empty talaga si Rael. Like, you mean my actions have consequences? Tapos may shock Pikachu meme.
You know that line from Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Gina is like, how was I supposed to know my actions would have consequences? That's Rayel!
Oh my God, yes!
Grabe talaga siya, no? He really did expect na nandyan lang si Tali always. Like, he really did! Shit!
Well, like Donna said, I mean, no tea, no shade, no pink lemonade, but typical Filipino man.
Oh, shit! Parang nahiya ako defending him for the last week. I was like, I was rooting for you! I was the only one rooting for you!
To be fair, like, hindi naman rooting. Pero, so medyo na ako to yung opinion ko of Rayala sa character. Pero kasi, on paper, they're perfect for each other. Like, I know that the reasoning behind their arranged marriage was purely and entirely to end the War of the Wolves and to forge, like, a truce between Yeshin and Raya. I get that. But also, like, in terms of arranging a marriage between two royal children, it also makes sense kasi like si Rayel is very calm, very level-headed, very logical. Si Talyien naman is very impulsive, very courageous, very you know what? Like draw sword. Like fuck me up, bitch. like alam mo yung meme na yan, there's like a person who takes the flower out of their hair and then inabot niya sa the other emoji and then the emoji is like, kick his ass, baby, I got your flower. Like, in a perfect world, that would have been Rayel and Talyien. So, I can understand the feeling of dun sa part na yun na humingi ng tawad si Rayel kay Talyien when it was revealed that Than was his son. And then it hurts. Yung can we try again? Yung sinabi niya na, can we try again? Yun yung sinabi, I can't imagine a world without you. Tapos, bitch, nawala ka for 5 years.
Di ba?
Tawa. So, like, I get why that scene hurts. Kasi it's not really defending Rayel. Because, like, I admit that, like, Rayel is hot. Rayel could, like, throw me against the wall, honestly. But also, like, I don't like him like as a person. So, pero I also understand why that scene where humingi siya ng tawad hurts because it's the concept of what could have been in an ideal world na like, if all of the things that if Chiha didn't exist, if Rayel wasn't such a bitch and all of that. Tapos, alam mo, may funny kwento ako. The part where it was revealed na Anino exists and that son siya ni Chiha and ni Rayel. I remember reading that because it was like madaling araw na, siguro mga 1 a.m. Di ba ang healthy ng sleeping habits natin? So, it was like mga 1 a.m. And I didn't want to text anyone because it was a weeknight. It was like a Wednesday or a Thursday night. So I didn't want to text anyone just in case they were already sleeping. But also, there's no one in my household who reads, and there's no one in my household who's a fan of JIN-SAYENG. So I kind of felt a little bit of Shalea's pain. Wala akong, I didn't have anyone na pwede kong ilabas yung feelings ko. Alam mo yung ginawa ko? So, madaling araw, nakapajama ako, I ran downstairs, lumabas ako sa bahay, tapos tumayo lang ako sa gitna ng kalsada, just like, feeling things. Alam mo, tapos pa, I sleep in like a white nightgown. So, feel ko, akala ng mga neighbors ko, namulto. I was just standing there sa sidewalk, just like, holding my iPad and going like, just to feel the physical, para mawala lang yung the sheer rage. My gosh, hindi ko talaga ma-describe the sheer amount of rage that built up in me nung na-realize ni Talyien na yung batang yun is yung anak sa labas ni Rayel. And he had the audacity to be all like, oh my God, is Than not my son? Because you were ako when you slept with Agos. And here he is with his own na nangongolekta ng panganay. I had to let out my rage somehow. Okay, so yun lang yung naisip kong paraan. But in terms of character arc development ni Rayel, it's not so much an arc as it is a plateau. Feel ko.
He didn't get any worse.
He didn't get better, pero hindi rin siya like he didn't get worse. Yun that's the best thing I can say about him.
True. Diyos ko, grabe yung mga pinagdaanan natin sa chapter 10 if we are going to imagine our experiences. Diba? Yung galit na nilabas sa atin ni K.S. Villoso. K.S. Villoso, approve ka talaga. Sasabi ko sa'yo. Ayan. Okay.
Wait, I remembered. Sorry, I remembered pala na sinabi niya na he has never met Anino. Diba?
Oh,
Di ba he said that? Di ba parang they were
tapos
talking, like, oh my
Oh.
God, that's worse. Like, you haven't met your child for like 8 years, I think. Di ba they were talking that have you met him? And he was like, no, I haven't. Like, what the fuck?
Ang irritating pa dun, ma'am. Kasi yung first answer niya is, I don't understand the question. Sagutin mo!
Oo.
Yes, exactly. Are you stupid? Oh my
Guys,
God,
look,
Rayel.
okay, look. Rayel is the kind of person who thought that him killing Stan, just in case Stan isn't his son, was merciful. Okay? I mean, like, this is not a man who cares about children.
Yes.
Let's not expect
Creating
him.
children lang, gano'n.
Creating lang.
Gusto lang ko ayaw mag-alaga. Yun.
Di sana, nagtito ka na lang para mababaro mo yung anak ng mga kapatid mo, demonyo ka. Ay, naku,
Inom
nagigil
ka
ako.
na lang.
Rayel, just go. Okay.
Tapos
Trish, go
pinapunta
ahead.
niya yung ate niya na para maging caretaker. Sabi nga ni
Yes.
Justine.
Just go, Lord.
True.
Ay, nako.
Ayo!
Which to be fair is a very Filipino thing to do pag may anak ka sa labas, to get your sister to
True.
like.
True. So as you can see, hindi lang talaga bara pagkain ang representasyon na ginawa ni K.S. Villoso. Sabi nga siya, Leia, it is more than that. Very Filipino.
Grabe yung investment natin. Yung galit natin kay Rayel. So, the next character, si Yeshin, which honestly was a character that I didn't think we'd have to talk about this much. Pero kasi prominent, he's more prominent here, I guess, compared sa previous two books. So, regarding kay Yeshin, I guess, what are your thoughts on Yeshin's continuing influence on everyone? I mean, this is a man who has been dead for 16 years and people are still so scared of him. As in, 16 years ka nang wala bitch, pero sinusunod ka pa rin ng mga tao. So, what are your thoughts on that? And I guess, parang, what do you think this says about him as a person and what role he played in people's lives?
We don't know Cersei Lannister, we only know Yeshin Orenar.
Diba? As in, akala ko si Cersei na talaga yung, pero so, hindi ko alam kung, Diyos ko, hindi ko alam.
Wala rin ako kung emosyon kay Yeshin talaga. Ang masasabi ko lang is, bala sa buhay niya.
To be honest,
na nga siyang buhay.
To be honest, parang medyo na-impress ako na 16 years ka nang patay, sir. Pero parang, bakit ganun pa rin yung kapit mo sa tao? Pero at the same time, I know that mostly fear, he probably blackmailed these people, most likely. Parang, pero alam mo yung, anong yung sabi ni Kai na parang, how the fuck did he manage to influence things to this degree kahit patay na siya? And, I mean,
you know, it's really like the way that his influence spread across JIN-SAYENG is of course very impressive. Sabi nga, we don't know Cersei Lannister, we only know Yeshin Orenar. But at the same time, I feel like kay Villoso really hinted at it nung The Wolf of Orenyaro pa lang that Yeshin was pulling the strings. If you think about it in the context of Yeshin's obsession with teaching Talyien Hanza. Kasi like, di ba, there's always commentary about how like, Talyien uses Hanza to like, suss out her opponents like Loban and other Ubek even, yung boyfriend ni Kat.
ayaw niya.
So,
Ayaw nila talaga.
and every time Kain asks her about Hansa, she mentions that it was taught to her by her father. And then even in the secret room that we know the secret of that room was revealed in the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG with the Hansa board, diba? It's also emphasized that it was really a holdover from her childhood with Yeshin. So when it came to the reveal that Yashin was pulling the strings even though he'd been dead for 16 years already, it kind of makes you think na, I mean, obviously I'm shocked because like, holy shit, I was not expecting this reveal. But if you think about it, it does make sense because like the whole point of Hansa is to interpret or to anticipate your opponent's movements, and from there you can plan your own strategy accordingly. So I think it was a really good like metaphor for showing that eventually it was going to be revealed that Yeshin is the puppet master.
True. Yun na lang din. Pero yun na nga, ito yung sabi ni Morena Monologues. Ang dami niya rin kasing supporters for his cause, kaya daw talagang yung impact is nagtagal talaga. Kayo, ano ba sa tingin nyo bilang ano ba yung ni Yeshin? Bakit gano'n?
Actually, what I think, okay, wait, so what's interesting to me is that parang from the first book, we already know na, parang, or at least hinted at that Yeshin has such a hold on Talyien na parang she hears his voice in her head, ganyan, and then laging siyang nag-refer sa mga, parang yung past niya with her dad, and parang sort of like plays a role in her decision making. So it's interesting to me na parang once we get to the second book, makikita natin na parang Talyien is not the only person he has a strong hold on, but also not just their allies, or even enemies or people who is considered their enemies, diba? So may sobrang lawak talaga ng he's really the first influencer ever. Ano siya? Sobrang lawak ng scope, diba? Teach me how. And I think part of it is a generational thing na the people, or at least for the people loyal to him, kasi they went through the same like back-breaking work as Yeshin. They all sacrificed. So parang for them, they really believe, maybe they didn't really believe in the man, but they really believed in all that they sacrificed to get that certain vision that they're willing to carry it out even when he's dead. So I do think part of it is that ito yung generation nila, and ito kasi yung beliefs nila at that time. And Yeshin parang was aligned with that belief, so parang go lang. Or at least parang they sacrificed so much already na ayaw nilang mag-consider ng anything else. Parang they just want things to be worth everything that they went through. Ganun siya. I also did notice the Hansa thing, and I was like, parang this kind of like in Avatar where they had that pie show, the pie show board. So it was a bit like that. And I also like na-appreciate ko yung metaphor. Ano kasi yung tanong about Yeshin? Wait, I had a thought, but I forgot it. But Yeshin's like such a scary person. But at the same time, I'm really impressed with him. Like, I'm thinking maybe he should plan out my career. He should be organized in life. Kasi sobrang long-term, like sobrang mas, I mean, I know he's technically a bad guy, but PH government, take notes. This is how you make long-term plans. Like, as in eons into the future.
Grabe. Yan din actually naisip ko kagabi. Sabi ko, shit, sana nag-plan din si Yeshin ng life ko. No, wag lang yung love life ko. Wag na pakialam love life ko. Pero yung iba, okay lang.
Yeshin played the long game, and he played the long game to win talaga.
Yes.
Like, it's just so, like, I don't know the word for it, but you can clearly see that he viewed everyone, and actually to echo Justin's comment here, he viewed everyone around him as assets na their worth to him depends, or like what they can give him will depend on kung saan niya ilalagay sila. He's like an investor, and the different people around him are different assets that he can put into different games, different investments or whatever, to bring him the highest return. And tama si Shalea in the sense that like sobrang long-term planning. This is like the kind of thinking that like you see long into the future. And another thing that I feel enabled him to have this vision of like, how long can I plan for this, is how well he knew, or how well he had a grasp on the personalities of his key players. So like he knew that Talyien was going to act this way. He knew that Ozo was going to act this way. He knew that Chiha and Rayel and Raya were going to act this way, and he capitalized on that. And in the end, the only thing that medyo spoiler na to, pero you guys said it's okay. In the end, the only thing that ended up stopping him was when Talyien chose the greater good rather than ambition or yung idea of wanting to impress him, because that's the one thing that he wasn't able to comprehend, which was Talyien choosing rather than putting herself into obscurity and sacrificing what she thought her father wanted her to do. He never envisioned Talyien moving beyond that. And that all circles back again to yun nga, that very Filipino culture of viewing your children as an extension of you and your desires, rather than as individuals with their own ideas. So yun.
And I agree, nakakadiri tong part na to for me. Diba? Pero if we're going to look at it naman, ito rin si ate mo girl na bata, na anak ng wife niya, is really parang into it din talaga. Yung, alam mo yon.
In it to win it.
Yes. Okay.
Pero, yun nga, I guess yung, about kay Yeshin, I guess, since the first book, I guess, parang akala ni Tali, parang there was this impression na, whatever Yeshin did, at least he was doing it for the country. Tapos in the end, na-reveal na, fuck the country, he just wanted power. Parang, well, there goes that.
He just wanted the throne to stay in his family. Yun lang yun.
Okay, so ito na yung last sa mga parang discussion with the characters. And actually, parang interesting to para sa akin because I didn't expect to put them here. Pero I want to know your thoughts about Rhea and just in general, yung role ng Ikesars dito. Because honestly, bakit nandito sila? Please, enlighten niyo ako.
Added characters. Charot, hindi ko rin alam.
Added conflict.
kasi all throughout the books, parang when I first met Rhea, parang she met talaga everything na parang build up sa kanya. She was a very formidable woman. She was a very formidable opponent. At the same time, hindi ko gets though kasi yung na-notice ko throughout the whole book, parang lahat ng criticisms, well, at least yung parang blatant talaga ng criticisms, nakadirect kay Yeshin at kay Tali. And I thought, bakit ganun if yung Ikesars yung parang nasa in power? Well, maybe it's because wala ka makriticize kasi wala silang ginagawa. Parang gano'n.
Exactly. That's their role. Like sila yung useless politician na mayaman lang. That could be their role.
I know. Sige, go sila.
Sorry. Sila yung mayor na parang wala ginagawa, pero kapag birthday mo, may cake ka.
Exactly. I think that's their role. But yeah, seriously though, feeling ko lang.
Work. Pero may pag good vibes sa paminsan-minsan and people appreciate the handout siguro. Kaya hindi sila ganun. Parang the standards talaga rin are different when they think about. Parang I feel like there's also a stigma with being Orenyaro kasi. Like even without their power. Parang when they think of Orenyaro, they're like, oh, you guys are like uncivilized and so violent. And so it's also part of that. And so parang, unlike yung Ikesars, they're known to be like gentle and peaceful and so wise daw sila and stuff. Pero when you look at the actual like contributions that they made, hindi rin naman sila ganun ka-impressive. Hanggang birthday cake ang talaga sila.
Birthday cake.
Parang lang sila for aesthetics. Like for visuals. Kasi diba parang...
You know what the Ikesars sort of remind me of? They feel to me like, well, during Dragon of JIN-SAYENG at least, because they had a bit more presence there. They sort of reminded me of like a nebulous concept of Imperial Manila. Yung very, like, oh, you know what? The Zarajo are so impressive. Let's implement this. Let's implement that. It's like a mark of educated ka if you speak Zarajo. It's a mark of being civilized if you worship the unnamed god rather than. It's very. I know the Zarajo Empire is not meant to represent the US. I know it's not. But I could not help but compare it to like the urbanization of Manila in connection to the appreciation of Western aesthetics. Like, I mean, guys, we're speaking in English right now. So, may pagkaganon yung interpretation ko of what the XRs are meant to represent. So, yun. Pero agree ako sa yung sila yung government officials na pag may pumapasa ng bar exam, nagpapatorp.
Yeah. Actually.
Congratulations.
From the city of Manila.
Or nagpapapintura ng maiksing bridge tapos may sponsor project. Yan, ganyan. Tapos ganyan lang kaiksi yung bridge. Like mga 2 dipa.
yung parang, yung na-frustrate ako sa part na it was revealed na, especially yung history sa Agan and the JIN-SAYENG, yung Dragon Riders. Hindi ko pronounce. Basta yung Dragon Riders, how yung Agan was very normal lang before sa JIN-SAYENG. Pero dahil parang naging, hindi naman patok, pero parang hindi na siya unique to the Ikisars. They twisted it to seem like it was bad now because they can't use it for their own to make themselves special. And then I can't help but think of how much the Ikisars shaped JIN-SAYENG to be the way it is. Tapos they're not even they're not doing anything. So they're just i-influence nila and then pabayaan lang nila. Like, bahala kayo dyan, at least it works for us. Parang ganon, like, birthday cake. Parang ganon. Ganon talaga. Well, so, pero anyway, yan na yung last ng characters. Yung ikasar sa mga taga-Banila na, ay, yes! Ay, taga-probinsya ka. Ang cute naman. Tapos, okay, ang next section is parang extension ng discussion with the characters, pero must focus on the relationships because I think the relationships in this book, parang it serves a lot sa story. And of course, yung first is kay Talyien at kay Yeshin. Like, what do you think of the complexity ng relationship nila as father and daughter? And alam ko, medyo cheesy to na question. Pero do you think Yeshin really actually loved his daughter? Parang ganun. Sino gusto sumagot? Minahal niya ba si Tali?
May times na parang, tapos may mga times na parang player lang si Tali sa game niya. I don't know. Nahihirapan talaga ako kasi di ba may mga flashbacks siya na talagang pinapakita na parang super fatherly talaga sa kanya na parang sobrang treasure talaga ni Yeshin itong si Tali. Pero dun sa reveal, makikita mo rin o malalaman mo, makakonflict ka kung ginagawa ba niya yon para makuha yung loob ni Tali, para mapasunod si Tali sa mga gusto niyang gawin ni Tali in the future. So, ang hirap sabihin. Kahit naman si Tali confused siya kung minahal ba siya talaga ng tatay niya. So, ako as a reader, confused din ako kung talaga bang minahal siya niya. Ako na lang ang sabi ko is super conflicted ako kasi Yeshin will use anyone kahit na anak pa niya para makuha yung gusto niya. And I don't know if it's real love kung pag ganun. So, yeah, that's it.
I think Yeshin loved Tali, or at least he loved people the way he understood how love works. I think even with Tali's mom and basically all the people that he valued, parang he saw them, parang he loved them in a sense, parang but it was like, kasi I do think that for Tali, medyo may pagka-unconditional rin naman kasi yung, parang everything kasi he did was because he thinks he knows better than Tali, he knows better than everyone else. So parang he's like, I'm doing all of this for you guys. Parang may pagkanan siya na parang, I'm doing this for you, even though really he's doing it for himself. Parang he sort of like deluded himself into thinking na, by doing, parang I love him, that's why I'm doing this. Pero really, it was very self-serving nga lang. Pero I think for him, or at least for his perspective, it was really love for him. Parang ganun, if that makes sense. And then it's actually interesting kasi nga I was rereading Ray Bearer the other day, yesterday. and the relationship of Yashin and Tali reminded me of the relationship of Teresa and the lady in Ray Bearer. Yes. So I know you guys haven't read it, so you should read it kasi sort of parallel rin kasi okay, just for context, so the lady yes, I like how we have both editions. Yes. So this is a YA fantasy, but it really tackles parang how complex abuse is, right? Like how it comes in different forms. And what's interesting to me about this that kasi Teresa is raised isolated from everyone else. And then her mom, parang her mom's always calling her like, oh, you're made of me, darling, my beloved. And she's always talking about how much she loves Teresa. But at the end of the day, parang she's really more focused on what Teresa represents and what value Teresa can give her in her own like game plan or what she wants to achieve for herself. So it's really weird because it's wrong. It's not the love that's healthy. I think yun yung best way that I can describe it. It's a very unhealthy kind of love that's really more self-serving than actually acting in the best interest of the person that you're trying to love or to show affection towards.
I think that when you're going to discuss Yashin and Tali's relationship, the first thing to do is to realize that loving your child and being a good father are two separate things, and one can exist without the other. When I agree with what Shalaya said, that Yashin loved the way he knew how, and how he knew how to love was shaped a lot by his circumstances at the time, which was that he was in the middle of the War of Wolves. He wanted to ensure that the throne of JIN-SAYENG would stay with the Aranyara family. And I know we were like sort of dissing Yashin caring for JIN-SAYENG as a country earlier. Don't get me wrong, I don't disagree. But coming from that also was that Yashin's desire for power also stemmed, I feel, from a desire to see JIN-SAYENG united. Of course, his vision of JIN-SAYENG united was predicated entirely on him being the king and the throne staying with the Aranyaro. So I can't really call that patriotism, but like, he wanted it. It was there. The desire was there. So his love was shaped by all of that. And that's how he showed that he loved Talyien. It did not make him a great father. It didn't make him a good father. The bar is literally on the floor when it comes to Yashin being a father. But I do believe that he did love Talyien in his own way. And the thing that makes that comparison for me super, super stark and kitang-kita siya talaga the difference is when you compare it to how Talyien loves Fan. Because like when you talk now about Talyen's love for Than, her definition of love is also shaped by her own circumstances. And her own circumstances, I don't know if anyone noticed, pero yung sinabi ni Yashin kay Tali in like one flashback was like, we don't need anyone, it's just you and me. It has a very different vibe from when Talyien says it to Than. Kasi Talyien says the same thing eh. Diba? We don't need anyone, it's just you and me. But when Yashin says it to Tali, it has that whole added connotation of like, when I say we don't need anyone, I mean like in the context of, getting power. But when Talyien says it to Than, it's all about, you know what, you could be Rayyel's, you could be Agos's son, I don't care what matters is you are my son. And there is nothing, very Mother's Day appropriating discussion.
Shit, oo nga.
And there is nothing that could happen in this world. You could decide that you want to be king. You can go back to Oriñaro and take the throne from Raya if you want to, or you can walk away from it all, become a scholar, become a fisherman, become a healer, a doctor, whatever. And whatever that happens, I will, stand behind you and love you for it all the same. And it was very shaped by what she experienced from Yeshin, that his love is very conditional. It's very conditioned on her following what he wanted from her out of her life. So her resolution, what I love about Talyien kasi as a mother, and the thing that she got from her relationship with Yeshin, is it's very conscious that she decided to break the cycle of abuse. So like, I kind of strayed na from the question of did Yeshin love Tali. But basically, that's what I think that whole relationship revolves around.
Very well said.
Emotional ako. Ikaw, Kat.
Sorry, nababasa ako comments. I actually agree kasi kanina nisip ko din why there are different ways on how our parents show our love or their love for us. So parang Yeshin's love is a good example that there are kind of toxic and unhealthy love even from our parents. Like they think that that's the best for us, but it actually not. So parang yun lang din yung feeling ko is the way Yeshin actually thought of yung when he was planning everything for Talyien. So parang feeling ko that's the way that he sees things. And also medyo kasi nakaka-relate ako with Talyen's story about his father kasi there are like masyadong TFI na yata sasabihin ko. Actually, everyone knows naman yata this, but I came from a broken family, and I questioned my love for my father for probably 10 years or more because I don't know if he really loved us. But then eventually I found out that he has a different way of showing that love. So that's how I just see Yeshin's love for Talyien. So I still believe that he loved him or he loved her, but in a different way that we are not used to, and it's not healthy, and it's toxic, and it's problematic, and it's a form of abuse. So yun, actually, in short, I agree with the what you have said. Kinopy paste and explain ko lang yung side ko. But yeah, yun. How about you, Trish?
Kasi ayun nga, when we see flashbacks or memories of Tali about her father, yung him putting her on her lap, yung nalaglag siya when she was a baby and parang takot na takot siya. During those scenes, parang, shit, he really does love her daughter. Yan yung mindset ko. And then, parang knowing later yung how, parang, yan nga he loves Tali the only way he knows how. And para sa akin, sometimes it feels like the same way you love a prized horse, parang ganun. Sorry Yeshin, pero sometimes talaga ganun. And then I guess para sa akin is walang question na he loves her in his own way, pero I guess his way is it's not the way that Tali needs or wants. And then yung naalala ko is dito talaga ako umiyak, yung nung nasa spirit world sila ni Khine, tapos tinanong ni Tali yung spirit Ozo na, did you ever love me? Tapos, yung sagot ni Ozo, shit! Si Ozo! Si
Arro!
Si Yeshin pala. Tinanong na si Yeshin, did you ever really love me? Yung sagot ni Yeshin was, yan lang ba yung is that why you're sad? Parang ganun, forgive the eccentricities of an old man, come here, my child, parang ganun. And then, compare mo yung her scene with Arro, tapos sabi niya, have you forgotten that I loved you? Like, oh shit, hold on. As in, promise, shit, sandali lang, wait! Sandali lang!
OMG!
Okay, wait, while Trish is crying, can I just say, like, that scene where she meets Arro's spirit, and then he says that the reason why Ozo had him killed in Anzao was because if nalaman ni ni Arro na, there's that whole plot going on, he would never have allowed it. He would have done like everything in his power to stop it. Alam mo, when I read that part, like my emotions were like already here. And then when he said na, have you forgotten that I loved you? Parang, oh,
Oh my God. Okay. Let's not
Like-
cry.
Like,
oh, the father that Tali deserved. Honestly,
like,
True.
the
Oh my
scene-
God. Yes.
Gago, the
yes.
scene where Mara, his wife's name is Mara, diba?
mm-mm.
Gago, the
Mhm.
scene where Mara was like trying to stop them from doing the whole magic thing with Tali, and then they killed her for it. Parang,
yung sabi ni Mara, if malalaman to ni Arro, oh my God, if malalaman ni Arro, shit.
Naiyak si
Hindi ako okay.
Huminga ka. Oh my God.
like,
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God. Stop making us cry.
Wait,
Stop.
I think what makes it more painful is that Arrow was like sobrang short ng presence niya in the series. Diba? Like, he got killed off so quickly that we didn't even get to see him act as the father figure that Tali doesn't. I feel like we were robbed talaga. Much like how Tali was robbed.
yeah. And
like,
what makes
his
it worse pa, like we were robbed so early on in the series of seeing how Arrow and Tali were together. But what makes it worse is that there's so many emphasis on Tali's memories. So like, ang dami na- even though there's no like event that specifically shows this, there's so much textual evidence of how Tali felt about Arrow. And alam mo yung, like, I remember thinking to myself, in the middle of the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, like, Yeshin may not have been a good father to Tali, but Tali never wanted for a father. And I was just like,
Oh my God. That's so heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking. Okay, let's move on.
Hindi tayo okay. No one is okay.
Okay, just a quick break from the emotions. Hello to my family for watching our live show sa sala. Thank you guys. I appreciate
Hello, family ni Shilea.
Hello po. Hello po sa inyo.
Mabait po kami.
Mabait mo kami. Wala po kaming ginagawang masama. Wholesome lang po yung usapan namin dito. Anyway, let's move on. Trish, you have any more questions?
Actually, oo. Extension to, actually, sa answer ni Kate because it was perfect. Considering Tali's relationship with Yeshin, let's discuss Tali's relationship with Tan. And I think it's parang very the way Tali is a parent to Tan is very comparable to how Ria is a parent to Ryan, how Ozo is a parent to Agos, how Dai is a parent to his own children. There are so many parents dito sa book na to. But I mean, iba yung I guess I just want to ask sa inyo how parang obvious naman ang answer pero bakit iba yung parang relationship nila ni Tan at ni Tali, parang ganon. In a land na
I had so many thoughts about this. Like, I hope no one minds the answer first kasi ang dami kong
Go.
thoughts talaga about this. Tan is the only child born into this universe in all generations that didn't have a specific purpose. He was just born because RAYYEL and Tali got married and did the do, you know? But everyone else, all of the other children, oh my God, Tito, I'm so sorry. I hope Jada's not watching this. So Than is the only child who was born without a purpose. Everyone else, they were like created specifically to serve as extensions of their parents. So I mean, we all know that Talyien was like Yeshin and Talyen's mother specifically wanted a daughter. Si Rayel naman, Raya had him as just a way to secure that meron siyang heir in the War of the Wolves because her own brother was killed, just so that may magdadala ng pangalan ng Ikesar. Tapos even Dai Kagawa's daughters were born specifically because he wanted to have a bargaining chip with the royals of Oreñaro. Chiha had Anino specifically because she wanted this bitch talaga. Chiha had Anino specifically because she wanted a son to exist to contest Than's claim to the throne, and it was just by sheer luck that mas unang nanganak si Talyien, and like buti nga sa'yo, bitch. Even also had Agos specifically to create an in into Talyen's life. So like it's such a really interesting look at how these parents viewed their children compared to how Talyien views Than. And I just realized now that's all. Talyien and Than are not the only mother and child with that good relationship. I also want to like point out Sayu and her sons, Agos's children. So like these two mothers, which I feel like is the reason why nagkasundo kahit papano si Talyien and si Sayu eh. So like, I mean, I texted Shalea this na like when Talyien and Sayu made their peace with each other and with Agos being who they were, I was like, yes, chef's kiss. But when Talyien was like to Chiha, I killed your dad, I was like, But yeah, so like I really feel like that's such a good explanation or like way of looking at it. All of these children who were not treated well by their parents were specifically brought into the world to serve a purpose other than being a child. Pero when you compare it to the reason why Talyien loves Stan the way she does, why Sayu loves her sons the way she does, that unconditional love is precisely because there was an unconditional reason why they were brought into this world as an expression of love, not for the father, because fuck Rayel and Agos, but as an expression of love for your children. And that's why I think one of the greatest themes of this book really is legacy and how you interpret your children as individuals, as extensions of who you are rather than as individuals. Because you can see very starkly the differences in what love means to Talyien and Sayu versus what love meant to all of these other adults. So yun.
Yeah. To add to like the list of good parents, I want to point out Kind's mom. Also, I forgot her name. I'm so bad.
May Lamang.
Yes. Kasi I feel like, diba, she was very very short screen time and then ended with her sacrificing for her children and si Kind for them to like succeed in their own thing. And I really think that sort of stayed with Tali kasi it's brought up sometimes right in the third book na si May lamang ganyan. And I think that sort of like played a role in her decision rin to make that sacrifice to ensure that parang kasi diba towards the end like she's assured na someone's going to take care of Than. So may parang ganun factor in na it was interesting na parang she was inspired by a different mother who's also like who loves her, and also with Sayu now she sees all these wonderful women taking care of their children and parang mas nagiging decidido siya na I want to be like the best mother for my kid. Parang may ganun rin kasi. So it's like women empowering other women. So
Happy Mother's Day po!
Happy Mother's Day!
Yeah. That's why sobrang perfect na for Mother's Day.
Tawagan ko muna mami ko.
That's
Tinawagan ko sila.
Actually, maganda yung sinabi ni Justin dito. Hindi ko alam kung napakita ni Gerald, but she said na there were so many different parenting styles shown in the book and how it influenced the children as adults. And eventually, as they became parents, especially seeing Than's and Tali's relationship, which was like, it has like representation of how Filipino families were built. Like we have different experiences with our parents. And of course, hindi natin may kakaila that there are parents who think that na tayo yung legacy nila because, tayo yung offsprings nila. But also there are kind of parents who are more open with a different kind of parenting style that is unusual with Filipino setting, which makes the book more Filipino than what we think that it really is, and it's just really so amazing. So happy Mother's Day sa mga moms at your moms. Happy Mother's Day kasi nag-greet sila. But yeah, that's such an interesting. Sobrang naming sa thought process ni Kate doon. Interesting siya. Yeah. How about you guys?
Ako din, nung sinasabi ni Kate at ni Shilea, doon ko lang din na-realize na, oo nga, no? So, thank you sa inyo dalawa. Salamat.
Buti na lang nag-guess natin sila.
Yeah, that's why guest kayo para may...
Baka pag kami na naman, sabog na naman kami.
Salang po yung brain cell namin. Sinashare pa namin tatlo.
Buti na lang nag-isa sila ng brain cells.
Sa akin yung interesting because personally sa akin lang to when I was reading the books, I tend to forget na Tali is a mother. Sa akin lang. Sometimes I tend to forget that Tali is a mother. And when I started The Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, yung first thought ko when I read about Tali sa cell was, ang sama guro ng pakiramdam niya. She must be worried sick for her son while she's sitting in this cell. Parang, and then ko na-realize na ever since sa Wolf of Arro, sa Ikasar Falcon, Tali is working, is parang she's striving to make things better for JIN-SAYENG. Pero parang ang root din yan is si Tan, make this country safe for my son. Parang ganun, make a future where my son doesn't have to be manipulated or killed or parang ganun. And then, honestly, yan ang isa sa mga inspirations sa trailer. Kasi yung pinili naming kanta, yung Ili-Ili Tuluganay. Yung sa song is, sinasabihan yung bata na tulog muna, wala pa dito yung nanay mo. So parang it points to Tan na wala si Tali dito. Wait lang muna, parang ganon. Kasi Tan, especially for most of the books, I mean, we don't see him, he's not physically there sa Ikasar Falcon until the very end. Ikasar Falcon until the very end. And then sa third book, I think, last quarter na. I mean, this boy has very little screen time, pero sobrang grabe yung he's such a driving force for Tali's character. And then, yun nga, happy Mother's Day.
Tapos, wait, I just realized na actually Yeshin and Tali has a similar, I don't know, they want the best for their children. Pero the difference is the way that they do it. Parang ganon. Pares naman sila they wanted the better future or the best future for their children. Kaya lang yung nangyari with Yeshin is it's very manipulative na gusto niyang you limit Tali's life in the timeline that he has set. Unlike Tali, she just wanted something better for Tan in the best way possible. So parang para sa akin, they're similar with that part, pero magkaiba lang sila ng way, which also again speaks about how we are different with parenting styles, even in Filipino culture. So yun, do you have more questions, Trish? Feeling ko marami kasi pinrepare yan si...
marami pa. Sabi ko nga 3 hours ito, di ba?
Magda 2 hours na tayo, girl.
Oo nga. So, sige, with the relationship, actually, dalawa na lang. I-save ko yung best for last. Pero ang next is, interesting din for me, Tali and the women in these books. Because, na-notice ko at least, a lot of men may influence sa life ni Tali. But when it comes to action, usually yung solidarity or yung opposition or yung wake-up call ni Tali, it comes from the women that come into her life. Si May Lamang, si Namra, si Nor. So, I think it's interesting kung bakit ganun. It's interesting na these women don't necessarily, hindi nila necessarily gusto sa Tali, but they have to support her. So, let's discuss the sisterhood here. Discuss nga!
Wait. No, actually,
Yeah,
what I like about it is that parang it's not very showy sisterhood. Like, if you compare, I mean, to other, there's a lot of fantasy books that are marketed as feminist, ganyan, and then like empowering women, and it's usually like one very good example siguro is yung Girls of Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. Actually, I'm reading the third book, and then sobrang iritang-irita ako because it's very rah feminism. You know what I mean? Like, let's burn down the patriarchy, kill all the men, and all of that is very extreme. And what I like about this one is that parang it's kind of quieter kind of solidarity na parang it feels more like something that you can expect in real life na, and it's something that is more instinctive, diba? Like when we meet another woman, or for example, like very simple example, like if we're in a public bathroom, tapos may girl doon, wala siyang pad, tapos diba, bibigyan mo siya ng pad. Parang dun siya na vibe with this book na it's not out loud na parang, oh, look at us, we're so empowered. Pero like in their own way, they are empowering each other to like make decisions and to be better, ganyan. It's really more, parang it's very instinctive talaga. Like, don't even have to think twice about it. It's just something that they do talaga naturally.
Yeah.
Ako, in terms of women influencing Tali and her decisions and her actions, I kind of actually want to focus on how the mothers in this story influenced or just shaped the events that Tali went through. So obviously, we mentioned earlier, we were discussing Sayu and May Lamang na the way that they loved their sons and the way that May Lamang unhesitatingly laid down her life to save the village and including her children was a huge driving force in what Tali herself decided to do for JIN-SAYENG and what she owed to her children. But I also want to point out that the whole reason that Nor betrayed Tali in the first place was because she was afraid for her own daughter. If you can remember from the Kisar Falcon, the reason why she turned on Talyien was because she was afraid that the war that would be started by Than not being Rael's son was going to affect her own child. And actually, Justine's point here is also correct na when Chiha was put into place for the whole thing that happened with Ubek. I don't want to talk about it. But yon, she also knew that I mean, I'm not gonna be the one to call Chiha a good mother because like fuck that bitch. Like I know what Shalea just said about the whole pad thing for like people with uteruses and all, but if Chiha was in a bathroom stall next to me without a pad, like duck walk, bitch! Duck walk to the vending machine because I'm not getting your pad. I hate that bitch.
Kahit change lang, hindi mo siya bibigyan. Like, 5 piso lang para gumano.
You spread your legs and you do the waddle over to the vending machine and get your own damn pad. I hate that bitch so much. But yeah, I feel like integral part siya of like the sisterhood that affected Tali's decisions and shaped the events that were happening around her so much. Like people did a lot for their children, and that in turn affected how Tali acted for JIN-SAYENG and for Than, her own son. So, yun, very interesting to think of.
Honestly, hindi ko masyado na pag-isipan. Pero, yan lang, parang na-notice ko lang na for this book, when Tali was on the road, when she was taking action, sino kasama? Si Anya, si Namra, when she was fighting si Nor. Parang, it's women beside her. When she was resting and writing si Suya, parang, I don't think we got that sa previous 2 books. And it's interesting na ngayon, when it's do or die for Tali na talaga, it's women surrounding her. Parang ganun. Wala lang.
Yeah. Actually, it was, tama si Trish, parang before, it wasn't really that, walang masyadong scenes that there are women around Tali that are supporting her this, in, especially, kahit doon sa Ikasar Falcon, usually, ang kasama niya talaga, it's either si Kain or si Agos, or other characters usually are male. Pero in this book, sobrang feeling ko mas in-empower ni Kay Villoso yung roles ng women characters or female characters in the book, which is also parang I also agree with Shalea when she said na it's not a very upfront na parang on the page we are like empowering one another, but it's more like it's subtle, it's yun nga, it's quiet, it's something like yung alam niyo yung mga tipo ng scenes na you don't want to admit that you care for one another, but then it like the action speaks louder than words. Parang ganun yung empowerment with women in this book. Like, for example, si Namra or si Anya or si Sayu, it wasn't like they really like each other. Hindi naman nila talaga, like Tali and Sayu, they don't really have like, hindi naman nila sinabi na, oh, sige na, bati na tayo, okay na tayong dalawa kahit na ganun yung nangyari. Because okay, just because we'd like to, you know, or parang quits na tayo, parang wala na gano'n. So parang, just would, parang okay na tayo kasi gusto nating i-empower yung isa't isa or whatever. Walang gano'n, but it's more like unsaid words and actions that were, yun talaga yung pinaka naging obvious with the scenes. So, ang nakakatawa lang kasi at the end, you will see how these women actually came through all this. And yun, ang sarap sa feeling, you know, to see these characters. And usually, yung mga lalaki dito, sila yung pinaka fucked up yung characters, which also feels good, you know.
Except Kain.
Oh, except Kain, of course.
Kain can have rights.
Only Kain is the only man in this book with rights. Kain and Arro.
Kain and Arro.
Yes, Kain and Arro. Exactly. So yun.
Alam mo the relationships between the women in this book. I feel like it's the spiritual opposite of that. You know that scene in Endgame where suddenly all of the women are like protecting Peter Parker, and it was meant to elicit this reaction from the audience of like, yeah, girl power, despite the fact that none of these women know each other or have worked with each other ever.
Yes.
I feel like sorry, shade, but like I feel like this book, the relationships between the women in this book are the spiritual opposite of that scene, because none of these women like each other.
True.
Siguro the difference, siguro the exception na lang would be Namra and Talyien. Someone said sa comments kanina na sabi ni Namra boring ni Rayel. kaya mas bet niya na kasama niya si Talyien. But like,
actually, parang si-realize ko sinabi nga niya yun.
Diba? Like, none of these women like each other, but because they all are united in the same cause, they work together toward that. And I feel like that's a better representation of women working together than whatever the fuck that was in Endgame.
Correct.
How dare you? Is it because wala siyang degree? That's so discriminatory.
He knows muscle.
I need an explanation. I need an acceptable reason. Charot.
Since na bring up si Kain, siya yung last ko si Nave sa relationship. Girls, ito na. What do you feel about Kain? Palabas niyo. Kain?
Ito ang napipil ko kay Kain.
Oh my God. Okay, go.
I apologize in advance to Shalea's parents kung nanonood pa sila.
Oh my God. Nakakalimutan ko na.
Tita, please don't ban me from your house. I'm sorry in advance.
Oh my God.
Girl, look, every time Kain and Talyien did the do, I was like, yes, sis, get that dick!
yung scene na nag-jug-jug na sila. Tapos, yung sabi ni Talyien, kinagat niya si Kain para she won't make a sound. Pero si Talyien, he's gasping Tali's name.
Oh my God.
Kasi like, tapos the thing is that I liked about Kine is that he wasn't, actually, I'm gonna disagree with Nay's most recent comment na he wooed Talyien even when she's married. In our family, exit na po kayo. Hindi Okay, so I'm gonna disagree a little bit with Nay's comment here. I don't think he wooed her specifically until the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG. And in the Dragon of JIN-SAYENG, I feel like even though they were married, it was kind of morally acceptable because we'd already determined that Talyien has no more feelings for RAYYEL. Like she's all like, tapos na to. We're married on paper only, but like this is done. What I liked kasi about Kine in the previous books was that he was very upfront about, you don't have to promise anything to me. I'm not expecting anything from you either, but like what will make me happy is helping you to the best of my ability. So like, Kine, you fucking
Patron
simp.
saint of sin. Patron saint of sin.
Patron saint.
So like,
Tama. Ang witty mo, Shalea.
Kine is the patron saint of simps, honestly. And I think also that it's a very interesting look at the fact that divorce isn't legal here. Kasi diba yung binanggit niya na like divorce isn't legal in JIN-SAYENG kaya hindi ka pwedeng humiwalay. And like if you've ever been with or been a part of or seen a single parent family in the Philippines, then this is the norm. Na like you want you be happy in a relationship, but like you are barred from the legal ability to do so because of that lack of that law. So you do it outside of the law. And I like that yun nga, Kine was very respectful of what he viewed as Talyen's boundaries. Na like, I'm not gonna ask anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. And I understand that you're not in a position to give me this right now. But like, what I want to do is I want to be there for you and be a fucking simp.
I will say that even though Kine is like the biggest, he also sort of like gave Tali real talk when necessary. And he'd be like, hey, why is your government, parang he'd like point out, like parang when she's in the wrong, he would tell her naman. So I do appreciate that parang, like, yeah, he is sort of like a simp, but he's also like good for her character in the sense that he pushes her to like really grow. And I think that's what I like rin about the relationship na parang I think it's such a stark contrast to all her other relationships that everyone wants something from Talyien, and Kine is the only person who's there and like, no, I don't want anything in return. Even Agos had a motive, okay? Even Agos had a motive.
Yes.
So
oh my God,
everyone else was like, mahal na Reyna, and Kine was the only one who was like, mahal kong Reyna!
Oh my God! Oh my God! It's so kilig.
So
But
finally, that's the background. Every time they did the do, I was like, deserve!
Ayan,
Oh my
Gerald,
God.
alam ko, gusto mo magpalabas. Labas mo na yan.
Hindi
Go.
talaga. Habang pinag-uusapan si Kine, yung ngiti ko, hindi mawala sa mukha ko talaga. Masakit na ang cheekbone ko talaga sa pag-ngiti na yan dahil kay Kine. Oh my God. Ako kasi, as a person na ang love language ay act of service, hang arte. Yung scene na halos mamatay na si Kine, pero sinundan pa rin niya si Talyien riding a horse nang halos mamatay na siya. Sis, that is already the moment sabi ko, bitch, Kine is one of a kind.
Galing!
May baon ka doon, may baon.
May
Actually,
Spontaneous lang yun, bigla na lang siyang lumabas.
may nagsabi dito kanina, sabi niya, lamang na lamang po si KhineLamang. Oh my God!
Galing din basta si Kyle.
Alam mo,
Hala,
ang
that should be an official hashtag.
Lamang na lamang si Kine
Hashtag lamang na lamang si Kine
Lamang si
lamang.
Kine.
Hashtag Kine is one of a kind. Yun lang.
I
Mahal naman
love
si
Kine.
Kine.
I
Mahal
love
naman
them.
si Kine.
I love Kine.
Ikaw, Kat.
Simula-
Elaborate mo yan. Elaborate mo.
Yeah, wait. First book, alam ni Trish yan na RAYYEL siya, team kind kami ni Gerald. Alam na ni Trish yan since the first book. Because, parang, yun nga, I mean, i-echo ko lang yung mga sinabi nila na kind has a different way of like showing love, and siguro it also reflects kung paano siya pinalaki inside her home. Like her mother has the right and healthy way of showing her love to her kids or her children. So I think na nare-reflect yun somehow ni Kine, even though again Kine is also flawed. Hindi naman siya din perfect. Like marami din siyang flaws throughout the trilogy, and like yung pagiging ano ba yung ginagawa niya? Yeah, and also like ano ba yung ginawa niya? Nagkita sila ni Talyien. I mean, anong term doon? Con artist. Like, magiging con art, of course, you don't root for that kind of, like, job or profession na ginagawa ni Kine. But then you understand, and also, nakikita mo how he developed his character from there onwards. So, yun lang yung pinaka na-appreciate ko kay Kine. Tsaka wala talaga siyang, I mean, I love him because of the way that he loves Talyien, but also, like, the way as he is. Yung parang, yun nga, tulad ng sinabi nila, when people are looking, or when people are actually interacting with Talyien, there's always something na parang may motive sila. Laging merong kailangan sila from Talyien. But him, parang wala naman talaga siyang kailangan. Tapos gusto niya sumama lagi kay Talyien. Alam niyo yun? Parang, okay, sana all. Like, okay.
Get you a jowa that was dedicated to you as Kine is to the queen.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh my god, wait lang. Sorry, yung
Go.
scenes of Kine and Fan, right? Like yung mga when they interact. Sobrang nakikiutan ako, especially kasi like, how old is Fan? Mga 8, tama ba? But so he's like young. But then there's like a scene where parang they're talking and they're trying to figure out a plan to help Tali. Tapos parang when he talks to Tan, parang hindi siya binibelittle, hindi niya, parang may sort of, parang, oh, you are my equal. Parang it's the same sort of like view or how Tali views her own kid na hindi niya masyadong binababy and parang nag-listen talaga kung ano yung opinion nila, ano yung gusto nila. So I was like, oh, high respect. I love a man who's good with kids.
Yes. And the fact that he actually took care of Anino. I mean, parang nung si Tali, nung nalaman niya na si Anino yung kasama ni Kine, parang she was really, like, ano ba tawag ito? Parang relax lang siya. Hindi siya masyadong stress kasi alam niya na si Kine yung kasama ni Anino during yung time na yon na kinidnap siya or whatever. So parang sa akin, diba, total opposite of RAYYEL. Like, RAYYEL, just
RAYYEL can
create
go to hell.
kids.
Sabi ni
Right,
Gerald.
take notes.
RAYYEL.
Yeah,
Like, okay, ito yung tatay na dapat maging tatay. I mean, hello. So, yun. I rest my case. Yun lang.
Kinokollect ni Kyle lahat ng pangalan ni Raya.
Yes. True.
Si Kine talaga yung character na yun na, like, di ba, I talked earlier about how, like, there's a hash and death or whatever, tapos kalaban niya si Jericho Rosales. Si Kine si Jericho Rosales, to be honest.
Diyos ko, parang shinare ko to kay Kate.
Gusto ko na pa parang,
Hindi ko ma-explain. Shinare ko to kay Kate. After ng chapter 5, yung trial na scene, shinare ko to kay Kate na, honestly, chapter 10 was the part na wala na talaga ako kay RAYYEL as a character. Pero chapter 5 was that chapter na sabi ko, wala na talaga si RAYYEL at si Tali. Like, wala na talaga sila para sa akin. And then, in-explain ko kay Kate na kinikilig ako kay Kine at kay Tali. Siniship ko sila, but at the same time, na-stress ako sa kanila. Because first, going back sa first book, nakita ko like what Shalea said, Kine, parang he grounds Tali. He's not afraid to confront her. So, it's the exact kind of relationship that she needed. And then, para sa akin lang ha, when pumasok na yung romance, parang naging magulo na siya, naging complicated na siya. And then, yung naanoy ako is because may cycle sila kasi na inuulit. May cycle na mahal kita pero hindi tayo pwede. Tapos iiwan ni Tali si Khine. Tapos si Khine susunod pa rin. So okay, magkasama na tayo. Pero mamaya iiwan naman ni Tali si Khine. Tapos it's a cycle. Like,
Wait lang, it's a very Filipino teleserye. Very Filipino drama. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Like alam ko, masakit para sa inyo na magkatabi kayo ngayon. Pero stick together na lang please. Parang ang nakakapagod na paulit-ulit kayo. Pero in this book talaga, parang that part na instead of going after Tali, Khine went for Tan. Like, the cycle was broken. Doon ko talaga, parang hindi ako sure kung how my perception of their relationship changed. Pero that was the change. Parang doon ko na nasabi na if Tali does not end up with Khine, she doesn't end up with anyone. Parang ganon. Parang ganon. Yun lang. Pero yung nagustuhan ko talaga with Khine was, yung sabi nga ni Shalea, parang naalala ko yung scene na yung sa first chapter pa talaga to, na they were talking about RAYYEL, tapos sabi ni, parang tinawag ni Khine si RAYYEL na yung, yung king or ganoon. Tapos sabi ni Tali, technically hindi siya king, hindi pa siya na-crown. Tapos sabi, yung sagot ni Khine, importante pa talaga kung anong title niya. Parang, importante pa talaga ngayon yan. Like, hindi yan importante. Parang gano'n, yung mga moments with Talyien, kind like that. Like, tapos yung end, honestly, ako, spoiler naman tayo, no? Akala ko namatay na talaga si Tali. Tapos, honestly, hindi ko in-expect to. Like, KS Villoso, thank you. Thank you.
I find it so fitting na at the end of this entire journey, so diba, Khine is the one who goes into the Dragon Tower, diba, and like breaks Tali out of that whole, her mind is trapped there, channeling. I find it so, channeling. Sorry, I picked it up for my team. I find it so fitting that Khine was the one who broke her out of that mold of listening to Yeshin. And then he ended up being the one to figuratively kill Yeshin's memory. So like, I find it super, earlier we talked about how Talyien broke the cycle, but I find it super fitting that it was Khine who helped her do that. So like, RAYYEL could never. Fuck that bitch.
Yes. Naalala ko nga itong sinato, yung sabi, di ba nga, si Khine hindi hiniwala sa mga honorifics na ganyan, pero bakit may si Princess Rhea? Ang sagot ni Khine, dahil mukha siyang princess.
Oh my God, I remember that.
May isa pa yun.
The vibe was like, sige, subukan mong tawagan siya na walang princess.
Alam mo, naalala ko yung isang pang scene, yung nag-uusap sila ni Ozo, tapos nag-joke si Tali, so, anong gagawin ko para ma-seduce si Yubek? May feminine walls. Parang ganun. Tapos sabi ni Ozo, alam mo, kung makikita ka ngayon ng tatay mo, kasi ang sabi ni Ozo, charming daw yung brothers ni Tali. So I guess Yeshin expect na charming din si Tali. Tapos makikita daw siya ni Yeshin ngayon, he will be very disappointed.
Pero you know what? Like, Tali's characters, really, wala talaga siya yung parang, alam niyo yun, parang, ano ba talaga seductive? I mean,
wala yung
charm. Like, totally wala talaga. Kasi ganito kay Chia.
Oo. Alam mo yung kay Tony, yung kamukha niya si Mama Mary. Parang gano'n yan. Yung gano'n ni Tali kay Tia.
Starting over again.
Gano'n yung energy na binibigay ni Tali sa akin kay Chia.
Yung parang, bakit siya ganito siya ka-perfect? Ganito siya kaganda.
Pero alam niyo ba, ito talaga yung nakakatawa dito sa JIN-SAYENG. Sobrang naging funny pa. Sobrang naging funny yung banter dito lalo. Ewan ko,
Mami,
I was going to
hindi ko nakuha sa unang first two books. Diba? Alam mo yung parang mapapatawa ka talaga.
I feel like kasi established na yung mga relationships ng mga characters. So, may mas maraming opportunity for them to like joke around, ganyan. Like before, syempre, when ano name niya? Si Rayel and sina Khine met. Parang syempre, they don't have that dynamic yet na parang medyo weird and whatever. Even like tawa ako sa isang scene na parang yung priestess na kasama ni Rayel. Tapos parang sabi ni Tali na parang she's been with Rayel too long so she had to like develop a sense of humor. Parang
Oo, alam mo yung nag-joke niya. Yung nag-Namra, parang, hindi ko na maalala yung situation, alala ko yung nag-joke si Namra. And then parang tumingin si Talyien sa kanya. And then Namra was like, what? And then parang, yung sabi ni Talyien was like, nag-joke ka ba? Sure ka ba? Tapos parang doon niya na, oh wait, masyado ako nang matagal na kasama ako.
yung nasa throne room sila, tapos tumawag na namin, buhay ka pa ba, Queen? Buhay pa. Tapos, sige, nag-check lang. Gaga talaga na lang.
That's it.
so, I'll be waiting here. Girl, ikaw yung Reyna.
Sobrang funny talaga. Sabi ko nga sabi ko kay Trish, parang bakit ba nag-exist pa yung mga comedian? Nandito naman si Talyien. Sabi ko kay Trish, she's so funny in this book. I really love her in here. Sobrang witty niya. Ang quick-witted niya here. Parang how to banter. Ang saya. Ang saya to
Ay, ito, on point to. Tapos gusto ko yung habang dinideliver ni Namra yung joke, straight face pa siya. Alam mo yun.
Tapos kasi di ba parang may priestess vibe siya. So parang ang serious niya. But at the same time, she's
parang
so funny.
malumanay, gano'n.
True.
Tapos yung
Fantastic.
vibe niya,
Di ba nung nakita din ni, when they were at Yuyan, and then na-encounter ulit ni Tali si Nor, and then in that context, Nor isn't trying to kill her anymore. Parang gano'n. Tapos parang Talyen's only reaction was like, sup? Natawa ako ng intense din.
Oh my god, like, na-realize ko na parang si Rhea was like singled out as the only character without humor talaga in this book. Like, I remember na parang may part si Tali was like, you sounded like si Arro just now. Tapos parang before Rael could react, sabi niya, I know you don't get it, okay? I know you don't look like him. I'm just saying you sound like him. Parang inuunahan na niya na parang, I know you don't understand the joke, okay?
I was making a joke.
Alam ko, I know you're stupid. I can't comprehend.
alam ko bobo ka.
Alam mo yung pag may pag may nagjo-joke, tapos yung okay, joke to ha. Joke to ko ha.
Explain ko yung joke ha.
I am just like
I'm
clarifying
joking.
first, this is a joke.
Just so you're aware.
Just so you're aware. Parang ang slow mo, Rayel, I know.
Slow mo. Explain ko na ngayon. Yung fun pa, yung unexpected team up nila ni Namra at Anya at Tali. Just ko yun yung Charlie's Angels na I didn't know I needed. Ang funny nilang tatlo. Ano ba?
Actually, si Anya was like the type of a woman character in there na hindi mo ina-expect na magiging kakampi din ni Talyien or magiging kasama din ng Talyien. Kasi strong din yung character niya eh. So parang she really doesn't want to depend on or believe on the queen, ganyan-ganyan. Pero ang funny talaga nilang tatlo. It was fun.
I'm actually really sad when Anya died. Like, I didn't expect to get this attached to her.
Yes. Grabe tong libro na to, papatawanin ka, sasaktan ka after. Okay, Villoso, sobra ka na.
Sobra ka na.
I mean, nabigla ako. Because I think this book made me cry like 4 times. And one of those times when namatay si Ozo. Kasi sobrang galit ko sa kanya. For the most part, diba? Kasi parang he's so loyal to Yeshin and you're kind of like, parang ang blind ng loyalty niya, choo. But then, nung namatay siya, sabi ko, hala, wait, I feel I feel bad for this man kasi tas yung give up niya, di lang give up, pero parang, in a way, he sacrificed si Agos para lang to further Yeshin's agenda. So parang sa niyang anak, binigay niya sa cause ni Yeshin. So parang I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. Bakit sobrang committed niya to it. So wala, naawa talaga ako sa kanya. And then when he said na, I'll say hi.
I'll say hi to Agos for...
Agos for...
Yan yung last words na kay Tali. I'll say hi to Agos for you. Okay, shit. Okay,
Yeah. Ito yung kinausap ko pa si Kay. Sabi ko, Kay, am I allowed to tweet this quote specifically? Kasi nasaktan ako.
Wait, tapos sabi ko ulit, Trish, I wasn't expecting na maging ganito ka-soft kay Agos with this book. Like, parang sabi ko na, hindi ko expect na mamimiss ko si Agos.
Hoy, grabe talaga. Alam mo ba, nung buhay pa si Agos, ito lagi ko talaga
ayaw natin siya.
Lagi ko talaga itong chinachat sa kanilang dalawa kasi nung buhay pa si Agos, alam niyo, sobrang talaga akong parang naiinis ako sa kanya. Pero nung namatay siya, nag-left siya ng void sa heart ko talaga. Nung habang pinapasok ko itong third book, namimiss ko talaga siya. Alam niyo ba, may mga moment kapag napag-uusapan si Agos sa book, sa mga first chapters ng Act 1, umiiyak talaga ako. Hindi ko alam, namimiss ko talaga si Agos.
Oh my God!
To the point na yung aso na inaalagaan ko sa Stardew Valley, pinangalanan kong Kissy para lang i-commemorate si Agos.
Oh my God!
Ewan ko, I love Agos talaga. Namimiss ko si Agos. Grabe.
Lalo na yung pinakita na yung family niya.
The flashback na yung si Agos yung nag-aalaga kay Talyien nung nanganak siya.
Yay! Oh my God, yes! That part.
Actually, parang feel ko the third, which is, even though Agos is gone for the third book, parang it does a good job in like further humanizing him. Kasi in the second book, for me, parang si Khine and si Agos are like Tweedledee, Tweedledum, because we're both like Sims or Tali. Pero syempre, mas bet ko na si Khine. So parang for me, I'm like, Agos, okay, you're irrelevant. Like this, Tweedledee na ako. But in the third book, parang it shows na may life naman siya outside of Talyien. may other ganaps naman siya outside of Talyien, which really helped parang, again, sort of connect with this character and appreciate this character better.
Nung nalaman ko na tatay pala ni Agos si Ozo, nag-text ako kay Kate na yung imagination ko si Ozo parang malaking bato, tapos si Agos parang medyo maliit. Yan talaga imagination ko sa kanila.
Ito na nga, wait lang.
So,
Nagpa-fancast na sila. Talagang pinipilit ko talaga to kasi gusto ko rin malaman kung sino ang mga gusto niyong gumanap. Ang dami na nga dito. Fancast the character.
Gee, let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with Tali siguro. Sino ang gusto niyo gumanap na Talyien, if ever?
Glyza de Castro!
Oh my God, yes! Same! Glyza ako.
She has that vibe talaga of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but you're never gonna know.
True. How about kayo? Glyza rin ba kayo or why? O may iba kayo nasa isip?
Wala. Pero nakita ko si
Ako din,
Glyza,
wala.
tapos, that may Tali vibe siya.
At saka like, her vibe, at saka yung features niya can be Talliens.
Hindi Jericho Rosales kasi si Khine.
Hindi. Para sa akin, ano yan?
What the hell is that?
Oh my God!
Narinig
Yes! That's the purge! Magsisimula na yung purge!
Kanino yan?
What the hell?
Hindi yan akin, promise.
Hindi ko alam, pero may narinig ako.
Nagparamdam si Yeshin.
Oh my God, seryoso?
Ayaw niya
Hindi ko alam sa akin
magpapagpap.
ba yun? Wala naman.
May nag-a-announce ba or what?
Mumu ni Yeshin.
Wait. Sakit ang ulo ko. Creepy. Oo nga. Jinx.
Isa lang yung thought nila. Si Yeshin yun. Okay, so Yeshin, stop.
Yeshin, alam naming powerful ka, pero
Pero like,
Wala
take
ka
a
muna.
pill.
But nasa mind ko si Yeshin, si Henry Luna.
Gago yung nasa mind ko si Yeshin. Si ang pangalan niya si Mon.
Oh, actually, same.
Oo.
Si Emilio Aguinaldo sa Henry Luna movie. Si Mon.
Wait, I don't know his face.
Okay,
kasi ni-imagine ko si Yeshin as payat eh.
Tingnan niyo, Mon Confiado
okay,
played Emilio Aguinaldo and Goyo and General Luna. Siya yung nasa isip ko talaga for Yeshin, as in.
Sino ngayon si Arro? Si Arro, si
Okay,
Epic
sorry.
no?
Tapos sabi namin ni Trish, Arro is epic Kizon.
Epic season.
Yes, Mabini, come through.
I want Arro to
tapos
be
Trish, diba?
warmer.
Trish,
Then
diba we
epic
fan-casted Carlo Aquino as Kine?
Oh my God, yes.
Si Kain. Tapos si Rayel.
Yes, Carlo.
May nagsabi, Gerald Anderson.
Gerald Anderson.
For Rayel? Pwede. Yes. Like on brand.
Oh my God, may naisip
Yes.
ako.
Yung paborito kong
Rayel.
fancast, no? Yung paborito kong fancast, yung ginawa ni Kate para kay Raya, si Yula Valdez.
Oh,
Shit!
yeah.
After
Oh,
nun, si
yes.
Yula sa ulo ko.
Oh my God, the power. Oh my God.
Diba?
Yes.
Pero may naisip ako for Rayel, though. Sam Milby.
Oh,
No, you
Yeah.
can't do this to me. I refuse.
Ayaw niya
Every
na
time,
maging
every
bad life si
time.
Sam Milby.
akala ko ayaw natin kay Rayel.
Oo nga, Kate.
Pero kasi every time Rayel
Very
talks,
conflict.
I swear to God, I hear Sam Milby's American accent.
Oh my God.
Fair.
Pwede. Iniisip ko kung
Sa yung voice over ni... Di ba siya yung voice sa Hayop Ka? Siya yung parang rich guy na bad guy. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe. Baka kaya i-pull off.
Oo, parang naka-typecast na din si Samil, di na rich boy eh. So, ayan na, go na.
Sino si Chiha?
Si Chiha.
May nagsabing heart evangelist for Chia.
Oh my God, pwede. Because
Yes! Love Mary, pray for me.
Somebody pray for me. Sino pa?
I love heart. Oh my God.
Yung napag-isipan ko para kay Loban, si Joel Torre.
Agree ako.
Oh.
yes, pwede.
Yes, pwede, diba? Pwede.
Agree ako. Sino pa
ba?
Bomb searching Joel Torre.
Sino pa ba?
Barreto for Chiha.
Sino daw?
Sino
Julie
na
Barreto?
Si Claudine?
Julie.
Si Claudine.
Which Barreto? Buong family sila.
Yung Barreto, Barreto sisters. Iba-iba everyday.
Wait. Si Rayel, si Gerald, si Julia, si Chia, si Talyien, si Bea Alonso. Oh my God.
I will accept. I agree. I will accept. Oh my God.
I will not
not to
accept
bring
kay Alonso as Tali. Ayokong maputi si Tali.
Actually, dapat hindi maputi si Tali. Hindi realistic. Pero like, not to bring it back to Bayaniverse, pero look at Gwen Zamora and tell me she doesn't look like what you think Sayu would look like.
Gwen Zamora. Wait, pag-google nga ako.
Yeah. Oo nga.
Ay, oo.
Diba? Sayu.
Galing mo, ma'am.
I'm loving it. Sana,
Sino
ano
pa ba?
maramdaman niyo if ever this got an adaptation? Ay, sorry. Go, Trish.
Si Agos, di ba? Si Agos. Si Derek Ramsey, di ba? Yung sabi mo, Kate. Sabi mo, Kate, si Derek Ramsey.
Oh my God, pero si Agos kasi, na-imagine ko si Cesar Montano, pero matanda na siya. Sorry.
Ma'am, wait. Alam mo, nag-chat ako kay Kate kasi kailangan ko description ni Kain at ni Rayel para sa code graphics. Tapos, for some reason, sabi ni Kate, alam mo, yung vibe ni Agos sa akin, parang 90s na Robin Padilla.
Cesar Montano nga kasi ini-imagine ko si Agos as talaga, brown. Di ba si Cesar Montano, yung complexion niya?
Cesar Montano when he was young.
younger.
Oh, he's yummy though.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Propose na ba natin kay Kato? Joke.
Oh my gosh. I can't.
Pero feeling niyo, kung may adaptation to, would it be better as like a trilogy of movies or series siya?
Series.
Series. Parang ang hirap i-squash
No.
into one movie. And I feel like if they tried, like, we wouldn't like it.
And also
True.
like, and also parang yung takbo kasi ng story, parang pang teleserye ng Filipino. So parang it would be so much better if series siya. And yan, ang dami nangyari, nakakasakit sa ulo pagka movie lang siya. Feeling ko marami silang ika-cut kapag movie.
Tapos yung makikita mo sa Netflix, yung parang pangako sa'yo na posing, gumaganon si Tali, tapos sa likod niya si... Ayoko na.
Yes! Oh my God! Pangako sa'yo.
There are some moments that I am imagining scenes in animated form. Hindi ko alam kung bakit, pero
alam mo kung bakit? Kasi si Trish, when she draws the art simula last year, ang ganda, parang pang animated series. Si Talyien. So siguro mams gawa ka. Hanap ka na.
Naalala niyo yung parang impromptu na fight scene nila Agos at Rayel na ginawa ni Kay at ni
Ayun,
Kate sa Twitter?
ano?
Oo, yung sabi ko, i-animate ko yan. 2 weeks ago na yan, hanggang ngayon nasa ano-ano pa rin ako ang hirap mag-animate po.
Pero ang ganda nun.
Sa part ko, ang hirap mag-animate, tagal po. So, 3 books i-animate ko. Ako lang mag-isa. Hindi nila ako makikita.
ang saya,
parang hindi pa sapat yung ginagawa mo, no? Para pahirapan yung sarili mo. Sabi ni Justin, teleserye vibes yung 3rd book, pinaslow mo na may nakakaba na background music, ha? Alam niyo yung parang mga teleserye na 3 season? Di ba ginagawa nila yon sa Philippine teleseries? Yung 3 season, like for example, yung Wildflower, yung kay Maha Salvador. May season 1 siya, may season 2, may season 3. Although tuloy-tuloy pa din siya, pero parang kinakat nila into like seasons. Feeling ko parang ganun yung magiging kalalabasan. Ganun kaganda.
Okay. So, we started with everything. Nalabasan natin ang mga galit natin sa mga characters, kung ano ang mga mahal natin sa characters, and we ended it with a fan casting, which this live show is very, very on brand ngayong araw na to for Mother's Day, which is sobrang ang saya sa pakiramdam na mailabas natin ang mga emosyon na ito. Maybe ending thoughts about this series and everything before we say our goodbye sa live show na to?
Basahin nyo! Bilhin nyo! Basahin nyo!
Read it. This. Oh my God, it's worth your time, mga Mamshi girl. Kami ni Kat na hindi mahilig sa fantasy, na hindi masyado makaintindi ng fantasy, sobrang minahal itong series na to. 3 libro na makakapal.
So true.
Na sobrang maraming political issues thingy. Minahal namin to. Kayo, mamahalin nyo rin to because this is so good. A masterpiece.
True. I agree.
It deserves to be part of the fantasy canon talaga. Like when people ask you like, oh, what are the old classics? What are the fantasy classics? And then people mention like Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and all those dead white men, you know. This book, this series has to be there, as in.
Yes, I agree. Like, tulad nga ng sinabi ni Gerald, you know, we're not really big fantasy fans, and the fact that, because it's not really like very focused on like the magical elements, siguro yun yung pinakagusto ko dito. It's more like how it reflects Philippine societal and political, you know, commentaries and issues, even in the old days and also like the modern times. Sobrang galing ni Kay Villoso for actually ano man tawag doon, parang weaving everything, parang para sa akin lang. Especially with this 3rd book, I was really amazed how everything tied up. So hindi kayo magsisisi, hindi kayo mabibitin, Pero mapapagod kayo. Yun nga lang sasabihin ko. Mas stressed kayo, mapapagod kayo because Kay has like a really great writing style that will actually bring you with the characters, like the emotional and mental, attachment to it. Like you will feel tired for Talyien. With the first book pa lang, pagod na ako kay Talyien. So, because Kay Villoso is a great writer. So yun, it's worth the box. I think magiging available yung third book sa fully book soon. Hopefully soon. But yeah, please read this book if you haven't yet. But I think yung mga nagstay right now, mga nabasa na nila yung first 2 books. But in case meron pang mga viewers up to this point na hindi nyo pa nabasa at na-spoil na kayo na lahat, okay lang yan. May first 2 books pa na hindi pa namin spoil sa inyo. So you can go ahead and read it. So thank you. Sino pa?
And thank you rin, Caffeine Book and Tours, Shalea.
Yes, of course! Thank you!
For the 3 of us. Maraming salamat. We really appreciate it.
Yes, very, very generous ng Caffeine Book Tours sa Trihoes. Dito sa series na to, sobrang thankful namin kasi na-discover namin to because of Caffeine Book Tours.
True, because of Caffeine Book and Tours, natin to discover. Yes.
Diba? Before, we were really scared to read it even though it's from a Filipino author because yun nga, hindi ko masyado mahilig sa fantasy ni Gerald, but because of the book tour, na-force kami and at the same time, na-discover namin yung love namin for it. And we love Talyien. Team Talyien all the way. Queen Talyien.
Wow. Shalea and Kate, anything to say bago tayo mag-goodbye? And Trish?
Wala na, yun na sinabi ko. Bilhin nyo, basahin nyo.
Yes, highly recommended.
And by the way nga pala, if wala na, Trihoes will, announce ka na ba, mga mamshi girl?
Alin?
Yes, announce na.
Ano yun?
We will
for this month?
a break
Okay.
for
Yeah,
June.
sorry. For
May.
May.
For May.
For May, yeah. We're going back sa June. Tama ba ako?
Natapusan, last week ng June.
Last week ng June for Brothers Keeper by Julie Lee. So, yung schedule namin this May, tinigil mo namin. We're taking a break because it's a lot. So, we're going to continue the live show sa June. I think sa channel ko yata yan, yung Brothers Keeper.
Yeah.
Brothers Keeper by Julie Lee. And then the next book would be Silence of Bones nga ba? Tama ba ako? Silence of Bones by June Her. Sa channel ni Trish. Nakalimutan na din ni Trish. Alam na, mental block kasi kami sa Dragon of JIN-SAYENG. Pasensya na kayo. Mga puyat kasi kaming 3. Pasensya na po. But yeah, yun lang. At saka, i-promote na din natin, the TLC has a theme box for the Wolf of Oranyara. I forgot the name. I'm sorry. It's Revenge of the Queen ba yun?
Revenge of the
Queen.
Oh, alright. I'm sorry.
And,
Sorry yun.
And you can also
nakita niyo ba yung
join
art sa likod ni Trish? ng The Copy War. Si Trish din is an animator, illustrator for this box. So,
yes, for this box. Si Trish din yung illustrator. Oh my God.
Sorry na po. Sorry.
Ayun, so we have like an ongoing giveaway on Caffeine Book Tours Instagram. And actually, if you go to any tour stop, where we've collaborated with the literary culture to give, I think, 2 winners, one from the Philippines, one international based, the collection for this one. So, very exciting siya.
Ayun. So, mag-pre-order na kayo. I think, for May siya, no? Tama ba ako? Sorry ha, sobrang lutang ko. Pero basta pre-order. For June box. Ayun. Sorry, Donna, kung nandiyan ka pa. We were very sorry. Oh my God, so good. Anyway, so yun. Yun lang yung mga announcements and then siguro we can have the final conclusion from the 2 of our guests. Thank you for guesting. But do you have anything else?
Yung brain power.
For the additional 2 brain cells.
Salamat talaga na sobra.
Salamat po. Okay, go.
Okay na, I think that is it. Thank you. Okay na ba?
Yeah, I think we're okay naman. Thank you for having us again.
Yes, again. Thank you for having us again.
And thank you for always accepting our invitation. Isang chat lang nandiyan na agad kayo. Maraming salamat.
We look forward to more like this chaotic 5, kasi 1 brain cells plus 2 brain cells, 3 brain cells to pagka 5 kami. Pero pag 3 lang kami, alam nyo na. So, yun. Thank you again.
Thank you sa mga nanood. So, to close this live show, we will have the trailer again. So, thank you so much and good night, everybody.
Bye!
Thank you.